It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Coming up, our weekly coronavirus update. Conferences canceled. And Steve Wozniak as patient zero. We'll tell you why bad guys are not allowed to use iPhones. And Apple accused of using slave labor. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. Stay in control when it comes to your company's access points and authentication. LastPass makes enterprise-level security simple. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 703, recorded Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. Greek the Tim-Tams. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Capterra, the website millions of people use monthly to find software for their team or business. Visit Capterra's free website at capterra.com/MacBreak. And by ZipRecruiter. Hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple and smart. That place is ZipRecruiter, where growing businesses like ours connect to qualified candidates. Try it free at ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. And by IT Pro TV. Get the most up-to-date IT training with IT Pro TV. Their video courses, virtual labs, and practice tests will give you everything you need to become a successful IT professional. Visit itpro.tv/MacBreak for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. Use the code MacBreak30 at checkout. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. It is Super Tuesday here in California and Texas and Minnesota, all over the country. How many states? A bunch of states voting. And that's why Lori Gill is wearing her pink hair.
Just because of Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday.
It's the only reason I've had pink hair for almost a year.
That's it. That's it. Hello, Lori Gill, managing editor of imore.com.
Hi.
They are voting in Montreal. And that's where Rene Ritchie is. He's at onmore.com. Hello, Rene.
We have no such elections today, sir.
No
We
elections.
have them randomly whenever the Queen feels like it.
I know. I love that about you guys. You're crazy.
You know what
man.
else is great? The
What?
vote of no confidence. Anytime a government bill doesn't pass, you can have an election. It's just fantastic. Cleans out all the cobwebs.
Mr. Alex Lindsay is also here. Sans I voted sticker, but you're going to vote later in the day. Or maybe
Sure.
not. Are you an anarchist?
I'm not an anarchist.
Okay. Alex is.
I think that would be a nihilist.
Nihilist?
Somebody who's not
Somebody who
voting.
doesn't vote is a nihilist.
Well, I don't know.
You can't
Somebody
vote
just
for
doesn't care.
anarchy, though, can you? I don't think there's anybody from
Well,
the anarchy
I
party.
would be tempted.
090.media.
Yes.
He's the new streaming media guy, director at Alex Lindsay at the Twitter. And Andy Anatko is also here from Boston, where I believe they're also voting.
Some of us are voting. Some of us are drinking. Some of us are doing both.
St. Patty's Day's coming up, so you know.
Yep. The annual time in which you don't want to read the Boston Herald to find out who's annoyed with what group and why they're being banned from the parade. Yes, that's...
Yeah, that's fun. Google keeps getting banned. I don't know why. So I just want to let the word go forth that Steve Wozniak is not patient zero.
Don't blame Steve.
No, Steve. You know what? Steve is a big-hearted bear of a guy who doesn't. I think he's not. He has no filter. He has no.
He has a playful nature.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he kind of got some attention, tweeting yesterday, checking out Janet's bad cough. They came back from Asia, January 4th. Came back from China. This is what got him in a little trouble. May have both been patient zero in the U.S. And, of course, all of Wozniak's tweets come from Swarm because maybe he forgot that he connected his Foursquare to his Twitter. I don't know. But they're always check-ins. So he's at the West Coast Sports Institute in Santa Clara. He was interviewed later and said, yeah, both Jan and I were really sick when we came back. He said, I could hardly move for a week. He had an engagement in Las Vegas, and he stayed home. But I think it's safe to say, Janet later was diagnosed with a sinus infection. I think it's safe to say that Steve Wozniak is not patient zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My other thing is how did she go 2 months without getting checked with a sinus infection?
I know with a sinus infection, that must have been awful.
That was painful.
I've had that before. It's very painful.
That usually it takes me days.
Yeah.
To be like, I can't handle this anymore. Give me some
especially since
drugs.
It's completely
Yeah.
treatable, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
My best friend is actually a lot like the Woz, I would assume, in that he is constantly sending me messages of things that he wants to tweet, and I'm constantly saying,
No.
"Don't do that." Because, like, for
Hey,
the
at
same
least
thing,
he
he's got
sends
that,
them to
that
you.
sense of humor. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got that sense of humor, and he's like, "Do you think people would think this was funny?" And I think your friends will think this is funny, but people on the internet, not so much. Don't tweet it.
Don't tweet it.
I think
you
I
for not
delete
outing me,
probably
Lori.
3/4 of my tweets.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was tweeting something this morning, and I thought I'd press the post button, but I didn't, so I had to press it twice. And I suddenly thought that would be such a great feature for every app in which you are going to post anything to anywhere, that it won't post until you click it the second time, and it won't tell you. It won't be a warning. It'll just say, "Oh gosh, there was a typo in that. Thank God I didn't post that."
Of course, USA Today, being the newspaper of record, followed it up, called Woz.
Took a great picture.
Took a great picture. He says both Woz and Janet had sore throats and coughs when they returned from Southeast Asia. He was scheduled to make a handful of appearances in Las Vegas right after the trip. Only made a couple. He couldn't speak because he lost his voice. We canceled everything else to head home. I couldn't move out of bed for 2 days. I did tell everyone I was sick and stayed away from almost all in Las Vegas. Woz said it was the worst flu of our lives. Janet was coughing up blood. That does not sound like a sinus infection.
No, that's not good.
Went to the
No.
hospital. They said it was no American flu. We've not been able to get tested. That's the problem right now. Had our return from Southeast Asia been today, we certainly have been tested and quarantined with the symptoms we had. It wasn't treated as important January 4th. This is the sad state of our country right now. He notified the Centers for Disease Control, but received a form letter advising him to wash his hands.
Ah.
Okay.
Well,
Also,
I mean,
Donald
that's
Trump.
He's got to wash
a
his
good thing
hands.
to do.
Yeah, a little late. Might have said something like, and don't go out in public for 14 days. I don't know. This seems like there could have
And
been.
don't tweet.
And whatever you do, don't say you're patient zero. All right. I just had to bring that up. He's fine.
He's
I'm
fine.
sure.
It's-
Yeah. It was.
I do wonder
kind
where
of a joke.
I do wonder where the line is between being forthright about your travel to make sure that if you did pick up something that you can be quarantined or at least be observed, and not wanting to put your entire community in a panic just because you've been in an airport outside of the United States anytime in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to tip over into that thick border between being well advised, being well informed, being well prepared, and suddenly, like now restaurants in Chinatown are having trouble booking tables, which is just stupid.
We are, South by Southwest will continue in a couple of weeks, but already Twitter and Facebook have announced they won't be going. I think
Facebook is quitting everything. They seem like
Facebook
just, if there's an
canceled
event,
F8.
Facebook is out.
Well, and if I were the boss, and I am the boss of this company, if I were the boss, I would say, look, don't take any chances. No unnecessary travel. We're flying. Lisa and I are flying to St. Louis for an event on Thursday at Worldwide Technology, one of our sponsors. We're doing a meetup at the Trainwreck Saloon tomorrow night.
That's going to be a train wreck.
Are you in St. Louis? Oh, yes, you are. Alex is on the panel.
I'll be there. Yeah.
Alex is on the panel. I forgot Mary Jo Foley and Alex are on the panel. We'll be talking about the tech in the cloud. The panel will be broadcast. We'll make a video of it and send it to send you a VHS tape. But in the meanwhile, you have to be a WWDC customer to attend the event live. So I'm hoping that will cut back.
Actually, Leo,
No?
they just opened it up. They just opened it up to Twit fans.
That tells you something, doesn't it?
So if you are not sick and if you are willing to greet Leo at a distance
with an elbow, I'll do elbow bumps. I'll pose for
The foot bumps,
selfies.
like the foot bumps, like in the
wave
memes.
at a
you know.
discreet distance.
I'm coming with a big helmet.
But also we are looking at, and I think it's prudent to look at work at home options. We are announcing now that we're going to close the studio for the foreseeable future. A number of our employees have expressed concern about studio guests, so I apologize if you had tickets to come see any of the shows, but we're going to turn that off at least until the coast is clear. So I apologize, but again, this is something you do for your employees. I'm not actually personally concerned. If I die, so what? But
it would be terrible.
A lot of other people would disagree.
Go to college.
But phone calls keep coming in. But actually, the Johnny Carson joke is when you die, phone calls taper off, but your nails keep growing.
Oh
no, but that's a terrible joke too. So I wish I hadn't said that. Rapidly turning into the. Never mind. I don't.
Nero fiddling.
A lot of big companies are.
I was almost said.
A lot of big companies are canceling, though. I mean, Salesforce has canceled. A lot of big media companies are canceling.
Yeah. And I think
no travel.
Again, if you have employees, it's a hard thing to say. No, you got to go do this. This is your job. It's a very hard thing to say. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have sick time. They don't have sick leave. People are coming into work. That's worse. So we've already told our employees, and we're looking at ways we could do most of these shows via Skype. Somebody would have to be patient zero and come in and run the board. Sorry. But we're looking at things. But at least for the time being, I did want to mention we're gonna turn off studio visitors for the next whatever. I don't know how long is this going to go on. I don't know.
But isn't that a terrible sign of how these problems tend to mount up? That we've created, at least in the United States, we've created a situation in which the people who earn the least are always the people who are the front lines, the people who are in contact with people, also the people who are not being paid so little they can't afford to take one of their sick days. Also, they're being paid so little that they can't afford health insurance, so that good health insurance, so they're not going to be treated for this sort of stuff. And so when the bees in a million years and replaced us as the dominant species decides to do the paleontology and figure out what doomed the humans, it could possibly be that all this fight about a minimum wage, perhaps that was short-sighted in the humans' long-range plans.
Yeah, outside America, it's very weird when you're a kid watching TV and you hear like socialism and liberalism being used as like insults when it's like the political parties and the entire rest of the world.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I know. So, will WWDC go on? F8's been canceled. Facebook.
That's a good question.
We haven't heard about Google I/O either.
That's 3 months off. Google I/O's in May.
Yeah, the thing. Google I/O has already been announced and already been ticketed, but Apple has not yet announced WWDC as usual, so they can still sort of.
It wouldn't even be calling it off, right? It would just.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, and this sounds like a joke, and maybe halfway it is, but I really think that this situation is going to, it's going to be like it's going to be like deleting the phone jack, the headphone jack from telephones, from phones, because a whole bunch of these companies are going to do it and realize that, wow, we got away with it. There are a lot of complaints about having these conferences just simply absolutely just a virtual audience worldwide and not having it at a physical location anymore. But we got by, and maybe we try it again next year, and the people who complain are going to be complaining less and less and less. And then they realize that why are we building like a temporary theme park that lasts only 3 or 4 days once a year when it seems as though we can do this a lot more efficiently and have much greater penetration if we simply make sure that say that no, there is no audience for anybody anywhere. This is always going to be a virtual thing.
Well, and the only reason we do it once a year is because it's so hard to do physically.
Yeah.
If we were doing it, if we decided that we were going to do a studio and put it together and run those kinds of things and put the same effort into it that we put into a physical event and the same budget that we put into a physical event, you got to realize like an event. One of those big events in Moscone that covers all of the halls and takes over, that's a $50 million, $100 million investment. So for one week, if we put all of that energy into something online, we could do it every week, every month, every quarter.
It still wouldn't be as good, though, because people meeting face-to-face is what those conferences really are all about. It's not the products, it's not the information, it's meeting face-to-face, isn't it?
It is the way we have done networking in the past. It doesn't need to be the only way. When Pixel Corps was a training organization in the early 2000s, we had 2,000 members in 40 countries. No one saw each other in person, and they still feel connected. They built whole companies together without ever meeting each other. So it's not that it's just that you have to do different things to get people to, it's a different kind of networking. It can't be casual or as casual, and it's not something we know. But I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do that, and I think that there's a lot of downward pressure on large events in general. There's terrorist threats, there's pandemics, there's carbon footprint, there's all these things that are that are pushing against having large conferences.
Yeah, well, I wonder what the future holds there. GDC, the Game Developers Conference, called off.
Yep. And this could be one of those moments,
Do you think, though? I think honestly,
it won't be.
They call them off because the big tentpole companies aren't going, or do they call them off because they genuinely worried about
government too?
Risk?
Government regulation is saying you can't have large groups. In some countries over 1,000, in some countries over 4,000 or 5,000.
They've closed the Louvre. You can't go see the Mona Lisa in Paris because France won't let you have a gathering of more than 5,000.
Geneva Auto Show as well.
I think this year
it's just hard for people to move around the planet now.
This year, the people are thinking about it. I think next year, if the virus comes back up next winter, I think you're going to have a seismic shift in how people do get-togethers, and that's where we're really going to see kind of an expansion there. I don't know if I talked about this before on the show, but we had an issue where HD Cam had an SR deck, and it's how everything on TV was recorded. And when the earthquake, there was 2 replicators for the SR deck. There was one in LA and one in Japan. And once a year, they'd move it to Japan to calibrate it. And while it was there was the big Japanese earthquake, and it killed Sony's ability to replicate SR tapes. And I funded like half of a little studio selling my tapes for $1,000 each because everyone was desperate. They couldn't record their shows. And that was the end of tape. like that was, literally within a year, there was no more tape. Like everyone went to solid state. And so the question is always, when you have this like shock mixed with, are the tools out there to actually do it? And I would argue that the tools may not be there, to actually do a really good, large scale online event. There's a lot of pieces of them, and someone could piece them together, but they're not.
Just hire Alex.
I've done a couple. So, but overall, I think that right now it's still something someone has to piece together, and I think that there's some real opportunities for people to put together the tools to create great online events.
Apple did have its shareholders meeting on Wednesday. Tim Cook addressed coronavirus, said it was a, quote, challenge when he's talking about it. Han Hai, which, Foxconn, which makes the iPhone, says we're going to reopen at the end of March. But I think that there's a lot of big, like, maybes or what-ifs or who knows. That conceivably would have some problem with the iPhone 9 or the iPhone SE2 or whatever you're going to call it, the iPhone SE successor, which supposedly will be announced this month. They also say they've reopened 30 of their 42 stores in China. Suppliers and mass assembly partners are slowly coming back up to speed. And some analysts have said the fallout could spill into the quarter ending in June. That's Mark Gurman reporting in Bloomberg. That all conditional on what I think people thought a little while ago, which is that it was getting better in China, but I see that the numbers are going back up. So,
well, the diagnostics changed, right? They went from like kind of sort of we know to now they're doing genome level detection, and it's much more accurate. And we're reporting it accurately. And
the number went up then, and it's continuing to go up.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it's not going away. Cook said annual revenue from wearables, AirPods, and Apple Watch compares with that. I don't know why you would say this, but he did. Compares with that of Marriott International plus Visa. More than $40 billion.
Perfect comparison.
Yeah, of course. That's what I think when that's what I use as a metric. Apple reported $10 billion in fiscal first quarter revenue for its wearables. So it's $10 billion a quarter, I guess, is $40 billion.
It's not a bad business.
Cook said for the first time, Apple will open its online store in India this year, with the first retail stores opening in 2021. So you can buy online this year and can actually walk into a store in India in 2021. He also talked about the company's rejection of the government's request to unlock phones. in the attack at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. Don't think, he said, we have something we're not giving. Don't think we have something that we're not giving.
Yeah.
In other words, we've given them everything that we have. Apple won't create a backdoor to break into its devices.
Except their hearts.
That's an That's an interesting way of putting it. Don't think we have something we're not giving. We're not holding out on the government. Of course,
what they're not
Apple's
doing
goal,
is building a new door.
Yeah.
But that's what it is.
And Apple's goal is to have less and less.
Right.
We only want to give them what we can give them, and that's why end-to-end encryption and things like that are important. Presumably, I think, Rene, you're the one who explained this to me. Apple can give them iCloud backups, including iCloud backups of things like WhatsApp and other encrypted messaging. That's encrypted, but Apple has the key, so they apparently are giving that to them.
That's the hard part. It's like Apple. There are certain things that Apple believes is in the best interest of the customer if they can help them in case the customer gets locked out themselves. But the minute they do that, those things then become subject to subpoena. So Apple has kind of carefully parsed through everything they think is just sacrosanct and is better if the customer loses it than anyone else ever gets access to it, and the things where they think that it's safer for the customer to keep it, even if it means somebody else could theoretically get access to it. And they keep those things have changed slightly. They've changed a lot actually over time. I think they will keep changing over time, but it's sad that we have to make those sorts of choose between customer safety and customer security all the time.
You know what? Apple, you know who can't get Apple iPhones? Bad guys. Ryan Johnson, the director of Knives Out, in an interview said, Apple won't let us do product placement if it's a villain.
I mean, we had that conversation. I was working in a movie where that was a conversation 10 years ago. I mean, that's not
surprising.
That's nothing new.
Right?
It's not enough. He takes Star Wars from me. He has to take the rest of the movies from me as well.
No.
It wasn't it the case in 24 that the bad guys all had Android phones and the good guys all had iPhones?
Well, it was Windows and Macs.
Windows.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, but that was
The good guys drove Fords and the bad guys drove Chevys.
Really? In 24?
Yep.
So if a guy was driving a Chevy, you knew he was a bad guy?
Yep.
And then they had fake computers, like they had fake Microsoft computers long before Surface.
Oh, I know
every
they had.
CBS show. It was very confusing.
They had Microsoft logos on the back of their computers. It was like nobody makes that computer. So this is the wild world of product placement.
Yeah.
Is Apple paying Knives Out?
Is that true on TV Plus? Because on TV Plus, everybody has Apple products.
There are no bad guys on TV Plus. That's what's wrong with it.
Maybe it's Shades of Grey.
It's only
Shades of Space Gray.
Who's the bad guy on TV Plus? Who was the bad guy? And even Steve Carell, was he a bad guy? He had an iPhone.
Yeah. They were all the heroes of their own stories, Leo.
That's right, as we all are.
Well, it does. Product placement makes for weird situations. One of the weirdest things about Pawnee, Indiana, in Parks and Recreation was it was the one city in the entire world where everybody was using a Windows phones. It was the most amazing thing ever.
That's the worst
or the
giveaway.
Superman
when you
movies
see
with all the Nokias.
those giant phones that no one really uses.
And there's a certain shot that you can see. As someone who works in this, there's a shot that you see and you go, oh, they paid for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it was, and immediately when they pick up the phone and go, I got to check something, and they you see them typing on it. It's always like a Samsung or something like that. And you're like, oh, they paid for that.
CBS was so bad is that they would not only do the placement, they would tell you about the product in the product placement. Like on my new Windows phone, I can easily search for contacts to catch the bad guy.
That's
this
terrible.
new Ford, it's got super fast shifting, so I can race the other driver.
If you look at Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas, the I think they were using like a Toshiba phone or something, but it was so clear. I was like, they probably paid for the whole video, for this one shot.
So that's the question. Did I didn't read the interview. Did Ryan Johnson say that Apple paid them for the good guys?
If you want to use it if you want to do Apple placement, they don't pay. They will give you equipment.
They don't pay for it. But
I never get that. Like you've got.
But if I bought the phone, could I give a bad guy the phone?
You have to cover the logo.
Yeah.
You have to?
Yeah.
I believe you have to.
Or if
no,
you
if I buy it.
No.
Like if it's your own
company. No. You can't have a commercial product. A commercial media product can't use a logo. That's why you Greek everything, right? It's a commercial. You don't want to have a commercial if you're selling the movie.
What's Greeking?
Oh, Greeking is
When you turn English into Greek?
No, it's funny. So we Greek a lot of things. Like on regular broadcasts, you grab onto like a soda bottle or a water bottle or whatever, and you use a pen literally, and you just connect things.
Yeah,
so that it
I've
doesn't.
seen that. Yeah,
and you just kind of connect it out. You either take
that.
off the logo or you. A lot of us print. I mean,
so if I see
one, you print your own logo. You print your own logo.
If I'm watching a show actually or a movie and I see a brand in the movie, they had to get permission for those wise potato chips.
They have a whole clear. They have to clear everything that's in the movie.
Yeah, there's a whole team that just sits there and clears.
Have we
logos.
Greeked all the brands in here? We haven't.
Show title.
We need to Greek all the brands.
Yeah.
Even the Greek brands.
Apple didn't give me this phone.
It's for this kind of stuff.
Could they get this pulled down on YouTube?
This
is a great news
program,
area, right?
They totally could.
In the news, you're giving it. No, you're giving it away on a free.
Well, also it's about leverage. Realize that any company who realizes that if there's a trailer for a $400 million blockbuster and an Apple iPhone is being used as a trigger device on a weapon,
well, that I understand.
Well, no, I'm saying let's use that as an example. They can basically say, "Hi, we're going to stop this movie. We're going to file injunctions to stop your $400 million movie with its $300 million marketing budget from being released. Or would you like to cover up that logo digitally in post or reshirt those scenes?"
Because it's their trademark.
Yeah.
Well, and like
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
The U.S. military, if you want to do a movie, they have all kinds of rules about, like, you want to shoot off of a carrier. They want.
Well, I understand that.
But I'm saying
you're trespassing on government property. That's different.
Right. But there's always releases. If you're using, that's something we worry about all the time. Like, we're hiding logos. Like when we're doing productions for commercial media products. Like if you're doing something free on YouTube or a podcast, I don't think we've ever had to worry about that really. But on large. Anything that is being sold or uses advertising is usually something we have to test.
So that's interesting because, in other words, if it's not product placement, I have to Greek it. So there may be an incentive not merely to get the free phones, but just so I don't have to make everything look so funky, to have these phones on set, get Apple to give them to me, then I can use them.
Well,
they don't have to pay me, but at least
it's so weird.
There's enough of a budget.
Shows where they're
you have
like
a $100 million
covered by a square.
If you have a $100 million movie,
but you see the
you
ones,
could afford to buy 10 iPhones,
right?
But that's not the issue.
But if you look at like Alias, if you watch the old TV show Alias, you'll always see that little circle that was stuck on that was almost the same color as the laptop and just on the back, and that's because they didn't get the approval.
And here I am eating Tim-Tams all the time on the show, and they could take our show.
Brought to you by Tim-Tams.
Are they approved? Are they cleared?
No, I didn't clear the Tim-Tams.
Cleared.
And you didn't Greek them.
I neither Greeked them nor cleared them.
I can remember watching
TV
shows when in the 10 years ago or whatever, where it would be sort of like a production TV show, but there would be random people in them, and they'd have like their hat logo would be blurred out, or their T-shirt logo would be blurred out.
That's
so there's
now sometimes it's because the hat or the T-shirt says something horrible on it, so it's not always a logo. Sometimes
I suppose that's true.
It says it has some
So. Okay, we're going down a rabbit hole. I got another question. So on the radio show, people are always asking when they call in, I had a real problem with this computer. Can I say the name? And I always say, of course. I want to know what name it was.
I mean, typically...
Should I not do that?
No. Typically on a news organization...
It's
news, or advice and stuff like that, that's not usually an issue. It's when you're selling tickets to it. That it becomes... Selling tickets or using as advertising is usually where...
News is coverage.
And then there's whole sides of the... like... as someone who does production, like you look at like James Bond, whatever James Bond is driving, that car company
they paid a lot of money for that.
They paid a lot of money for him to drive.
Or the wristwatch he's wearing. Absolutely.
Exactly. All of that stuff. That's all. And so like James Bond is a perfect example of that. I think they pay for a huge chunk of the movie.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal when he stopped driving Aston Martins and started driving Mercedes.
Yeah, it was one way to Ford.
James Bond doesn't drive a Ford.
He did. It was in Casino Royale, I think, when he rented the car or something like that. Because I remember seeing it.
Mr. Bond, would you drive this Mustang?
No, it was like I saw it and I was like,
it's a Fusion.
I think
BMW, I think, was a big one.
BMW was a big one.
That was a big one.
That was
during
the big
James
one.
Bond. Yeah.
And weren't there a lot of AMC cars and like You Only Live Twice or something? Whichever one where he was partnered up with
James Bond drives a
Louisiana
Gremlin.
Sheriff.
There was one movie.
James Bond drove a Gremlin.
You need that big back seat of an AMC Pacer to be James Bond in the final shot. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Wow, I'm learning a lot here.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did feature film production.
Yeah, it's a little thing I did on the side.
Once or
in a while.
twice.
Yeah. Worked for a couple
Somebody
of movies.
said Alex Lindsay could not possibly have worked on The Empire Strikes Back. He would have been 8.
I did not work on The Empire Strikes
You
Back.
did Princess Leia's ship for
Episode 1.
Nope.
episode
Amidala.
1, which is the 4th movie. Queen Amidala.
Queen Amidala.
The more you
worked on
know.
What was typically known as the Queen ship.
Thank you.
The Queen ship was what I worked on.
The Queen's ship. Queen Amidala's.
Yeah.
Not Prince. Did I
Which
say
was
Princess
basically-
Leia? Even I'm not that stupid.
It's basically a shiny 50s styling of an SR-71 without the fins.
the
Without the fins.
yeah.
It bothered me every time I saw it. I was like, doesn't have the fins.
It's a blackbird.
The blackbird. I once.
Blackbird.
I tried to.
It did look like a blackbird.
Yeah.
It's a shiny blackbird.
It is.
I didn't even think of that.
When I was modeling the previous one, I contacted
Stealth
the PR
fighter.
for Lockheed, and I said, hey, how about you guys have your engineers up here? I'll give you a tour of the ranch. And
Just
our
give us the
engineers can come
plans.
down. No, we can come down and visit the skunk works. And they were like, this is a top secret facility. And I said, so is this. We're a top secret facility.
And did that work?
And she goes, we work for the United States government. I'm like, we work for George.
Even better.
And
That's what a
she laughed,
conversation.
and she sent me a great like
t-shirt.
document and drawings of like exterior drawings of
No.
the SR-71, so that I could build the model.
That's the stealth fighter.
Well, it wasn't stealth by then. It was
not so stealth.
It was near retirement.
They have one at the Udmar
Oh, no,
Hudazy,
not Bomber. Surveillance.
whatever that is, the
Houses.
Air and Space Museum.
They have one. They have a couple of them. There's one at the Air and Space Museum.
It's
There's
really
one,
neat to see that in person.
There is one
So
at the Pima
cool.
Air Force. Pima Air Museum had one, or at least had one. And there's one in Florida.
Thanks to the chat room, I have a list of all the James Bond vehicles used in every James Bond movie.
See, look, Ford Motor Company. There was.
Yeah, okay. Octopussy was an Alfa Romeo. Quantum Solace, Spectre.
No, go to
Moonraker.
Casino Royale. Casino Royale.
Go to AMC
AMC.
Hornet. The man with the golden gun. No wonder I didn't see that movie. And
Mr.
AMC
Scaramanga.
Matador. Oh my God, Moonraker. He was driving a Concorde or a Jeep
Jeep
Wagoneer,
Cherokee.
Jeep Cherokee in A View to Kill.
CJ7, that's a good car.
That's a good vehicle. There's the Aston Martins that I remember from the real James Bond.
Yes.
Sean Connery. And Skyfall, they came back, right? They brought it back. Wow.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of nostalgia stuff in
Wow.
these latest Bonds.
Wow. And an Audi in some of the more recent ones.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Right there. See?
See?
When he's on the island.
He already found the clip. How did you find that so fast?
Because I'm.
Is that Dr. No?
No, this is
'Cause he's
Casino
Alex.
Royale.
Oh, Casino Royale.
And the
He's
reason
driving a Ford.
He's driving a little Ford. Like,
crappy
look at this.
Ford rental.
Yeah.
That's kind of embarrassing. Here, give it to me here. I can. No. It'll get it pulled down.
So you can't go full screen, but you know that you actually can show this as long as you don't go full screen.
No, we can't. Karsten is now the copyright police.
The algorithm won't see that. You know that, right?
Karsten is looking at me very
Algorithm
menacingly.
won't see
If I
that.
show the
it's
clip,
it's just an algorithm.
It's just an algorithm, Karsten.
It's just a machine.
Oh, the SR-71 is not a fighter. It was a stealth bomber.
Yeah. This is a good
the
fight to
SR-70
start
was-
on
there-
Reddit. If you just call the SR-71 the fastest plane ever, and that will start a fight.
Was it? No.
No, it's not.
Not even close. But it was the sneakiest plane ever.
In some ways.
Some ways. It's a spy plane. Sorry. S is for spy. F is for fighter. B is for bomber. Oh, there's a
and there were-
method to their madness.
There were a couple of different. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. There's a couple different
excuse me,
versions of
Leo.
that.
The SR-71 was entirely a reconnaissance
They did
aircraft.
work on
I'm
it.
sorry.
I think Alex caught himself almost about to violate a hell of an NDA.
And the rat hole.
What did he say? What did he say?
Nothing.
Go ahead.
Nothing.
Oh, man. Our show today brought to you by Capterra. If you are using old software in your business, everybody is, right? That's why Windows XP lives, because people have software that won't run on anything but IE8, things like that. You're suffering unnecessarily, needless suffering. Unfortunately, line of business software does not often get updated. Sometimes it was written by the boss's nephew, Joey, when he was an intern. And Joey went on to bigger and better things. He's now a dentist in Muncie, but the software lives on. Nobody's supporting it. You got to get, here's the good news. There's great brand new, fresh, state-of-the-art software for every single business, and you could find it at Capterra, CAPTERRA.com. The website millions of people use every month to find software for their team or their business. You can filter it down by, well, start with their 700 categories of software, everything from project management to email marketing, IT management software, even line of business software like dog groomer, yoga studio, mortuary management. Then filter, once you pick your category, filter the software down by price and features. You can even do a side-by-side comparison chart like they used to do in the magazines to compare the options side by side, save your favorites. Then the best part kicks in. More than 1.25 million reviews from verified users. Did you hear that? 1.25 million reviews. Visit Capterra, CAPTERRA.com. Now, wait a minute. Now, I don't know what category, but I see the names of the software are Nuvoris, Cryptlex, and Keygen. I'm going to guess this is for running a dental office. No? What is this? What is the category? I'm dying to know.
Licenses.
Now. Licenses. There you go. Licensing software. Look at that. There's software for everything. Oh, I forgot the best part. Capterra, your business ally, helping you find the best software for your business, is free. Free forever. Not freemium, free. A free online resource to help you find the best software solution for your work needs. Oh, man. Make a bookmark. Write it down. Capterra.com/MacBreak. Use it for free today. Find the tools you need for your business. And you know the way people kind of pay it back? One of the reasons there's so many good reviews, not positive reviews, but useful reviews on there, is because people didn't pay anything for Capterra, so they go back and they leave a review after they try the software. Do the same. It's just paying it forward. Capterra.com/MacBreak. We love Capterra. You can show your support for the show by going to that address. Capterra.com/MacBreak. Capterra is software selection simplified.
Guys, I'm sorry. Alex scared me, so don't worry. I made sure that this seltzer water is safe to drink.
You did show that brand.
I don't know if I'm a good guy or a bad guy. So little gaffer tape will solve the problem.
Rhymes with crepes.
Yeah, where's your iPhone? That's the question. Or are you using an Android phone?
Oh.
Actually, I'm using a Palm thanks to a new licensing agreement that you got to make $1 wherever you can.
Choosy geeks choose Palm.
This Palm Pre has turned my life.
TCL makes everything now.
Yes.
I think we did the coronavirus. Okay, moving along. Did you see Patrick Wardle's presentation at RSA? Patrick, who is a former NSA hacker, we've mentioned him many times. He's also a really good utility programmer for Macs. He works at Jamf. He's their iOS and macOS enterprise security researcher at the iOS and enterprise management firm Jamf. Former sponsor, by the way. He says, "Hey, if you're a bad guy, you know what's cool? take advanced nation malware designed for the Mac and repurpose it. They are incredibly well funded." This is, by the way, this was in his talk. Repurposed malware, a dark side of recycling. They are incredibly well-funded, well-resourced, very motivated hacker groups in 3-letter agencies that are creating amazing malware that's fully featured, also fully tested. So, if you're a hacker, why not let these groups create malware and repurpose it for your own mission? So
jerks.
I think he's not really telling people how to hack. He's just pointing out, the issue here is that this stuff gets out in the wild. He took 4 pieces of Mac malware that have been used in the wild attacks over the past several years and repurposed them to report to command servers belonging to him. From there, Wardle had full control over the recycled malware. This feat allowed him to use well-developed and fully featured applications to install his own malicious payloads, obtain screenshots and other sensitive data. Obviously, he's not telling you how to do this. He's just mentioning this is an issue.
Well, yeah, and this is all, that's most of the ransomware that we've seen are all based on our own NSA code.
Right. Not Petya, the one of the worst, and WannaCry, one of the worst malware worms. was based on Eternal Blue, a Windows exploit stolen from the National Security Agency. Right.
All malware are organized into families, and it's all about, hey, this one was super, super effective before they managed to find the good people managed to find this one weakness it could exploit to shut it down. So let's fix that weakness and release version 2.0. Yeah.
Well, and it's also why a lot of times we don't retaliate for like Russian intervention and stuff like that, is because we'd have to give up, show what we can do.
So I think if I'm going to draw a moral from his talk is these nation states are creating malware. It's impossible for them to keep a lid on it. And by doing so, they're empowering many of the security problems we're all suffering right now. And it's not just Macs, obviously. No. This is from Dan Gooden's article in Ars Technica, by the way. Let's give credit to Dan. He's one of the best security writers out there. Yeah. Wardle said, the idea is to let those with more time, money, and resources do all the hard work. Wow. He used to work at the NSA. That's the funny thing.
He knows.
He knows.
There's a lot of really smart people making really good code. I think when someone saw the Stuxnet, they immediately were like, this is the United States because no one writes code like that. There's nothing sloppy about that code.
I think Stuxnet was Israel and the United States and it's working in tandem.
And it's terrifying because what it can do is get into your USB system, which makes it almost impossible to pry it out. Yeah. Siemens, I think, figured out how to see it, see if it's there, but it's very hard to extract reliably. You pretty much just throw the machine away.
Yeah, there was that story, and the other depressing story was the vulnerability in Google's Titan security system that the researcher spent like 6 months getting them to fix. And he's like, your Project Zero deadline is like, 90 days? And you're giving me the runaround for 6 months? Google healed myself.
I use Yuba keys, not Project Titan keys, kind of for that reason. Project Titan keys, I was always a little nervous. They're made in China. But has anybody found anything with Yuba bad with Yuba keys? I have the new one, the 5CI that has the... I love it. It has a lightning port on one side and a Type-C on the other. So that's kind of cool.
Pretty.
Yeah. But I hope there's
anybody else
has
YubiKey in your USB.
Yeah.
You'll get juice jacked all over again.
You can only make it harder. It's like washing your hands.
New report from Ming-Chi Kuo. Let's give this a confidence rating. Apple is working on 6, count them, 6, it's a half dozen, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, mini LED products, including a new 14.1-inch MacBook Pro and refreshed iMac Pro. Mini LED is a screen technology that I thought wasn't yet ready for prime time.
That's micro LED, the confusingly named micro LED.
Oh, this is a little bigger. It's mini LED.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Not micro. Thank you for clarifying that. Mini LED is out. And the difference is micro LED is a direct view product with micro LEDs that you can mix and match to make a screen of any arbitrary size. Mini LED is about the backlight.
Micro LED is
still
so
an
expensive.
LCD.
They're only giving us small tiles and telling us to mix and match, so that it won't look like it's $1 billion for your television set.
So the mini LED is a very, very small, I think very, very small red, green, and blue LEDs, backlights. And
with more discrete backlighting zones, so there's less, like the detrimental effects with LED is that you have a lot of backlight glare, and they try to minimize that by having different zones.
Yeah. So that would make sense, right? Is mini LED? I think it's in widespread production. We saw a lot of mini LED TVs at CES. It's just an LCD technology. It's a new form of backlight, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense if Apple's going to make new products that they would use that in their screens. Yes.
It was supposed to be. Well, the rumor has it that that's what they were using in the Pro Display XDR, but it turned out they were just using LED
really
with
small LEDs.
Yeah, with really small, discrete.
Not mini,
zones.
not micro, but just really small.
Tiny LED.
Yeah. Well, it was mostly the way that they zoned it, but there are rumors that Apple's been investing in both this and micro LED for a long time, and it makes sense that it'll be the next display technology. OLED is a wonderful but incredibly flawed technology that Apple and every other company has to work super hard to mitigate. Like I was watching some of the videos with the new Galaxy S20, which has the best OLED display on the market, and when people are shifting refresh rates, the white point literally changes. Like it's just the OLED makes things so hard that everybody is desperate to find something that is as easy as LED and LCD, but that gives you the contrast ratio and dynamic range and everything else that makes OLED so good.
And maybe they're getting there. Actually, I buried the lead because the thing that's most interesting in this note is the 14.1-inch MacBook Pro. Right now, there's 13s and 16s and the old 15s. Yes. 14 is a sweet spot. I think that's a nice size.
Same size, but less bezel, just like the 15 went to 16.
Yeah,
so it would be a 13 with a smaller bezel, so you'd get 14 inches, which is, I think, perfect. 13 is just a little too small. 15 is just a little too big. I think 14 is a Goldilocks point.
Yeah. I don't know. I want an 18 with no
you
bezel.
want bigger.
Just like
you want the old 17-inch MacBook with no bezel.
But I don't want you to make it smaller. I want you to just fill out that bezel with more pixels. That would be amazing.
I do. I have to say I love my 17-inch laptop, my breakfast computer, because it really is a nice. It's too big to. The reason it's my breakfast computer is it's too big to heft around. Right, so I just plop it down at the breakfast nook, and that's it. It lives there, but it's really nice. It's really, and it's like 5 years old. It's an old System 76, but that size is nice. It's like you're using a desktop almost.
What's the case against having a USB-C Lightning-based? USB-C based external screens. It's something that is about the size and form of an iPad, but isn't going to be as slow as using mirroring on an iPad. It will give you extra real estate on your desktop, even if you can't necessarily have the big screen.
You mean as a second screen? So have your laptop plus a USB screen?
Yeah, I've always wondered why that hasn't really taken off. You can get them, but they're not. They're very, very. Once you, I had one for a couple of months to try out, and every time like I'd set up with like a second display next to me, there'd be so many people there at the Starbucks or at the Panera. It's like, what is that? It's like a tiny little second monitor. It's like, what's this? It's something that you can get probably at Alibaba for like $110. I even heard about it.
I've done that.
Mm-hmm. It's like DisplayPort over USB-C. I'm sorry, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
I've had USB.
Even just regular USB is fast enough to get a second screen.
No, we have screens that are USB, just USB to USB screens. They're
actually
a little.
Bring that over because
we use them as touch screens.
Father Robert was the one who showed us this at first, and John uses this all the time. This is an Asus USB. It's Type C, right? No, it's regular USB, USB 2. But it's a nice, and he uses that with his laptop. It's the same.
It's touchscreen.
It's almost like they took the lid off of an Asus laptop. Right?
Yep.
And there it is. And it wasn't expensive. How much? $120 bucks. So you get the value of a second screen. I think it's fast enough. But you're right. If you had Type C, it'd be even better.
Yeah.
Then you could have a nice screen if you want. Lots of people make those. You're right. I wonder why we don't see more of those. And does it have a stand? Is that how you do it? The cover, it has a cover like a TypePad cover for the iPad, but it turns into a stand. So that's a nice.
And they make some of them with that really only work with PCs really well that are touchscreens. So you can, it's the old kind of capacitance touchscreen. So it's not great, but
I'm not sure I'd want that.
Like $150. Well, it's useful.
Really?
Yeah. If you want to have something where what we would use it for is connecting it to a computer where we want to control. We just put an interface up that's big buttons that you hit things while you're working.
Here it is, the Asus. This is the most recent, I think, is the MB169B. Yeah. And it does auto rotation. See, there it is in your Holiday Inn room. So you can carry it with you. But see, that's why I use the iPad. And I don't use Duet anymore. I use what does Apple call it? The ghost display?
Sidecar.
The sidecar.
Yeah, I should remember that.
Which is kind of like what Alex was describing as a touch screen interface. That's your second screen. That's kind of what the iPad, what Sidecar does now for MacBook and iPad is you kind of have that second screen that's touch sensitive.
Yeah.
For certain programs, it's kind of neat and works really well. Not needed most of the time, but for sometimes it's kind of cool.
Asus does make a Type C, but it's a lot more expensive. It's like $50 more for the Type C. And here's one with a built-in battery. Why would you want that?
I would have to imagine that the reason a second screen for your laptop in a portable capacity isn't more popular is that it's just one extra thing
Right.
that you have to unfold and fit on a table. Whereas if you have one 17-inch laptop, for example, it's one screen, it takes up one spot on your desk or your coffee table or whatever. And even though it's the portable screens like that, they're lightweight and they're very thin, they can just like slip into your backpack. But once you actually set them up, you're taking up twice as much computer space on your tiny little coffee table. And that's probably why they're not that popular. They're intended to be portable, but they don't really fit in a portable life.
Plus,
use them all the
the
time.
other
I mean,
advantage of having the other advantage of having a 17 inch is that if you are making the chassis itself bigger, you have room for a bigger battery. But we have a lot of situations where, like Leo was saying, where I have this big, wonderful laptop, but I don't actually take it out of the office because it's too big. And I'm in this. My pick of the week is kind of related to this conversation that I bought a new bag, and part of it was if I'm buying this bag, which is really a buy it for life type of bag, I have to commit to never buying a laptop that is going to be used for trips that's going to be above a certain size. Now, I was very confident about that because they're making screens bigger by making the bezels smaller, like Rene said. But there is I have a friend who was using that prison cafeteria plate sized MacBook. Was it 17 inch or was it 19?
Yes,
I wanted. 17. It was, and I had it when, and he was still using it when I was reviewing like the original MacBook Nothing, and I had to like get a picture of the MacBook Nothing, like the smallest MacBook ever made, on top of this, and it looks like an iPad. I'm not talking about like the iPad Pro. It was just like looked like something this other MacBook PowerBook would eat, for a snack. And so I love the fact that you're having this kind of power inside something that doesn't require you to take something that looks like I'm taking a piece of big luggage with me just to go to Starbucks to get a couple of hours of email done.
I do have to say, since I do carry an iPad along with my MacBook, Sidecar is kind of the best of both worlds. I'm not carrying anything extra, and I've got that.
Right, and I will say I used a 17-inch for years and just loved it. And on a plane, if I get into the exit row, I could open it.
Be careful. You saw what happened to Pat Cassidy.
Well,
he's the Barstool Sports host, Hard Factor News. Here's his tweet. Delta, small note for the suggestion box. Maybe have a little warning sign or some way to prevent my laptop from being destroyed when the person in front of me reclines their seat.
So literally, when I open the laptop, the way I look at it is I look at the seat, and I look at where it's going to catch.
Yeah.
And I
tilt
look
it
at,
forward
and I tilt it just a little forward, so if it gets hit, it's going to go down.
I've had this happen.
I crushed a 17. My last 17-inch died because of this, right?
Because the seat reclines, but the tray table does not.
Exactly.
So the seat
catches it.
If it catches, so I've had it happen. And I actually was lucky. I yanked the thing out from under as it was going back. Had I not, I would have lost.
No, that was the end of my 17-inch. Was this?
This is why those 360-degree screen hinges are such a godsend. Every time I fly, I'm running into that problem myself. But it means that I can actually fold it the other way, so that if someone does recline all the way back, there's just no way for it to catch. It decreases the overall depth of the user experience. And if I know that I'm going to have to work on the plane, I will just take a portable Bluetooth keyboard with me, a little rechargeable with me, and it really is far, far more comfortable.
I liked your reaction though, Lori, because that was exactly my reaction. I look at this poor MacBook Pro. I think it's the new 16. Squished in that broken screen. I just went, oh.
Well, and
I just can't imagine how sad I would be watching that happen. I would probably just like
Well, of course, they make for great. I had an airbag hit one of my my titanium. The end of my titanium was an airbag, and it made a great stunt computer. So I was.
That's true. At least you got something.
You got something you can have fun with.
And you could bring this to Apple and get it repaired.
Wait,
I don't know how much it would cost.
Alex, can I have more information on this? And if an airbag hit your, what happened? Did it get thrown into the face of somebody?
No, it was me.
Who was using?
No. So what happened? What happened?
Okay, so you're not dead. To verify,
the guy that was driving. I was in the passenger seat preparing a presentation. And the guy that was driving just bumped the person in front of them, not very hard, and the airbag popped out. It didn't evidently. I mean, it pushed it up against my chest, and it shattered the screen. But otherwise, it looked fine, which made it much more useful. Like a month later, when I had to speak in front of a bunch of people, and I looked like I accidentally tripped and threw it 15 feet on stage, which I felt was necessary because it was a morning seminar, a morning session for 2.5 hours on the second day is the worst time to get a session. So I felt like I need to wake
Alex,
people
you
up.
may want to run to the phone. I think we have a payphone right outside because Google has just announced that they are canceling Google I/O.
There you go.
Yeah.
At least the in-person part of Google I/O, due to concerns. This is the email from Google. Due to concerns about the coronavirus and in accordance with health guidance from the CDC, WHO, and other health authorities, we've decided to cancel the physical Google I/O event at the Shoreline Amphitheater. Those who purchase tickets will be fully refunded by March 13th, while registered guests this year will automatically be able to purchase an I/O 2021 pass. I went to the Google I/O front page, and it doesn't say that yet. But this, according to 9 to 5 Google, this email has been sent out to attendees of Google I/O.
Yeah, other people are reporting it too.
I wonder how long before Apple says something. I mean, as you point out, Andy, they don't need to say anything because they haven't sold any tickets. And they haven't even said
they can
a date,
just announce it as a virtual event. Like they would probably just announce it as a virtual event from start to finish.
And this also puts a lot of exactly. And also, not only is it prudent, but this puts a lot of pressure on Apple to simply say, well, Google canceled, Microsoft canceled, Facebook canceled, but you decided that it was safe to go ahead. Okay, let's see how well. And if there's blowback from that, they are going to have a blowback that will overshadow anything they announce in June. So it almost seems like if you don't buy non-refundable tickets to if you're in the habit of saying it's usually a couple of weeks, it's usually at the same time, I'm usually there for 2 weeks anyway, I'll buy tickets in advance. Yeah, don't buy tickets in advance.
So the thing, a lot of people bought their tickets that became the whole trick because DubDub was so expensive, people bought a year early because they were fairly confident what would happen. But this to me hurts us in some ways more than Apple or Google because Apple can fill Steve Jobs Theater with employees and have an incredibly rousing, it won't be the same, but have an incredibly rousing product reveal event, almost like a regular keynote. And they can FedEx out product. They can do all those things, but it was just so much more efficient for them to do like briefing after briefing, especially with international press, because, either they have to bring international press to Cupertino or they have to go on a roadshow. And both of those are very resource intensive. But at least if you're in Cupertino and everybody's there, you can talk to all, like last year at WWDC, we didn't just get to see the new privacy features. We got to talk to all the privacy engineers. It was a huge difference in the quality and depth of the information that we got.
Yeah, and we benefited because you came back and you shared all that information on the show. And
totally.
Of course,
and for developers, it's not just the sessions because there are people who beam those sessions almost real time now. It's amazing compared to waiting a year. But the labs, the labs when you go in and get design critiques and you get to talk to the guy who made the framework and he says, oh, you're getting this bug because of this. And you're like, oh, you just saved me a year.
And Google does. I mean, the thing is that can be done online. Google does office hours or whatever, where they bring in the teams and they live stream for their developers and they talk through. You're talking to guys and they're showing you things and here's how to take. Here's how to
I guess
develop
in theory you could do all of that.
You can do it for a lot more people at the same time than having a round table. It's just a matter of building. It's a matter of exercising tools that are already there and applying them to this. This is an opportunity to stop doing something that's crazy and do something that is actually.
It's just the hands-on area.
Technology.
Like you'd have to mail out so many more products than you'd have to just put on a stand while everybody's milling around.
What do you get though? I mean, honestly, I agree with you on the briefings. I agree with you on all that. But the hands-on, I mean, you get 20.
You get the hands-on video immediately, Leo.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's good for YouTube. but do you really get? I guess you've now seen it. I don't know how important that is. Is it worth getting coronavirus?
But the other thing is
nothing's worth getting coronavirus.
You can also localize, and until we really shut everything down, you can also localize a lot of these things where you're doing an event where you might be doing it in all the major cities, and then
Microsoft's done that. They've had satellite events. Yeah.
I'm salty because Montreal's never a major city.
No.
We've done a bunch of events because we've had clients that are worried about carbon footprint. So we've done ones across four to six cities that are all tied together in the back end, and the speakers are coming from every different city. The people are on every different city. They're talking to each other, and it works, and no one had to travel. And again, this wasn't a pandemic issue. This was a climate issue.
Yeah. I want to go to Montreal and have a bagel. The last good bagel.
Let's do it, Leo.
Yeah, I really do. And now that I know that you're practically in Vermont.
The food in Montreal, the food in Montreal is amazing.
I love Montreal.
I'm 45 minutes from Plattsburgh.
Plattsburgh, New York?
Yeah.
Wow. Home of the United States Chefs Federation. Oh, no,
yeah,
that's
Alex
Newburgh.
was here. What is it? What was it? Was it Afghan? I forget what we went to when you were here, Alex. But it was really
It
good.
was so good. I think it was Afghan.
Yeah.
Which I love.
So good.
I love Afghan food.
Yeah. All right. We're all going to Montreal because there's
Twit
no
food tour
You
2020.
can't get sick in Montreal, can you? I don't
it's
think
too cold.
so.
It's too cold.
You have to get sick in French.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
My lad.
I'm not going though. There's too much snow.
Oh, come on.
There's always too
Nope.
much snow.
Nope.
Come
That was a
on.
lie.
Nope.
I'm just
Hard
concerned
nope.
about being let back into the country.
Do you guys have to go to, where is Future? In Britain, right? Do you have to go to Britain every once in a while?
So far, we've only had to go to New York. They have a New York office
Oh,
too.
too
so,
bad. It'd be
so
fun.
that's fine. Well, actually, I still wouldn't even want to go there in the winter though.
No,
You
you
don't
have
like
to San
snow.
Francisco for you, Lori.
Oh no.
Wow.
New York's pretty,
Yeah.
pretty cool place in the winter. I think I like it better in the winter than the summer. Oof.
I'm
Fewer
sure
people.
it's prettier in the winter than the summer, but
It's not devastating humidity and heat in the winter.
yeah.
Don't forget,
Yeah.
Alex, Lori didn't move to the West Coast. She was born on the West Coast. It's very different.
I have the sunshine boils through my blood.
She's like Superwoman. She gets power from the yellow sun.
Did we hire you at ZipRecruiter? No, but Miles, we hired. You, we did not. Okay. I'm thinking because we've used ZipRecruiter, our sponsor for this section, by the way. We've used ZipRecruiter a number of times. Who else? Ashley, I think we got on ZipRecruiter.
Yep.
John, Ashley. We have had such great results. You know, when you are hiring, it's always, if you're a small company like ours, it's always a problem because it means you're down a person. Somebody's gone. And, you know, that means everybody's working harder. Often the person doing the hiring is filling in. And it's a pain. You want to hire the right person, but you also want to do it quickly. This is why I love ZipRecruiter. According to research by ZipRecruiter, 75% of employers these days are having difficulty filling open positions. That's why employers are taking bold steps to hire. This is good news, by the way, if you're looking for a job. For example, 68% of employers have raised their wages. 23% have increased their benefits. That's how hard it is to hire unless you're using ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, first of all, it sends your job posting to over 100 top job sites. So you're going to cast the widest net. That means, you know, let's assume the right person's out there somewhere, but you're going to go to wherever they are. Here's another great thing they do. They have some really sophisticated matching technology. People apply for jobs at ZipRecruiter too, right? It's a job site. They will scan through those resumes to find people with the right skills and experience for your job and then actively invite them to apply. You can even add screening questions to your job listing so you can filter candidates, focus on the best ones. You can multiple choice, true, false. You can even have essay questions and narrow it down. Plus ZipRecruiter, all of the applications come into the ZipRecruiter interface. They don't come to your mailbox, your inbox, your phone. They go right into the ZipRecruiter interface where they are pre-formatted, so it's very easy for you to scan them, reject the people that just don't fit, select the people that are just right for you. In fact, ZipRecruiter will even highlight the best applicants. It's so effective, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Hiring's hard. More important than anything, getting exactly the right person. Because you know what's harder than hiring? Firing. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
hire right, and then you don't have to fire. Hire right with ZipRecruiter. You are going to love this. The experience is great, and you get great people. We love John and Ashley. We love you too, Miles, but we love John and Ashley. How do we find... He's John. We got Miles. How do we find you, John? Do we just throw a dart?
Basically, I think a dart was just thrown randomly on the board, and my face was on there.
You
for
were
some
good.
reason.
I don't know.
Alex
Did you
Lindsay-
apply?
Alex Lindsay may have had something to do.
Oh, you set us
Maybe.
up. Ah.
Maybe a little.
But okay, there you go. So that's, by the way, if you don't have Alex Lindsay, you need ZipRecruiter. we have hired a lot of Alex's former employees. That has been a good resource.
A lot of
for
people
us.
have.
ZipRecruiter.com. Yeah, well, you train him well.
Facebook's got a huge chunk.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Facebook has one of ours too, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Try it free right now. If you go to that address, by the way, that also helps us because then they'll say, oh, we got a lot of people from MacBreak. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. It's the smartest way to hire. And we know from real experience. Miles and Ashley are just two examples. They're not the only ones we've used ZipRecruiter for, actually. I just can't remember all the rest. So Apple has had a rule for more than a year that if you're a Chinese game developer, you have to have a license from the Chinese government for Apple to put you in the App Store. But they hadn't been enforcing it, apparently. According to some publication called iMore, the Apple...
Those scallywags.
Those scallywags over at iMore.
Nattering nabobs.
Apple tells Chinese game developers, no, you know what? You got to get a license. I mean,
I believe it's there's like the law in China, right? The Administration of Press and Publication of China. That was just a law that they had in place, and that Apple hadn't been enforcing that for a while.
Do you think Apple kind of knowingly didn't enforce it? Like, let's see if they notice.
Could be.
Yeah. Apple
or maybe they were given a certain amount of time that they had to kind of build the system in place to make sure that they were checking it. Now that deadline has hit. Now they have to do it, even if they were kind of putting off, making the switch.
The Chinese government really is locked down. In fact, they just passed a new law that says you can't say anything that would in any way scare people about coronavirus or disparage the regime.
They're not the only government. They're just the only one who's doing it fairly openly.
Yeah, they got a law.
There was a report today about not being able to prep military troops or something because they didn't want people to actually know that we were taking it seriously. The whole thing is ghastly.
Oh, that's too bad. They did block Plague Inc., but in the rest of the world, everybody's downloading it. The publishers of this great game, which has been around for, it seems like almost a decade, a long time. I've been playing this game. Say, this is just a game. It is not modeling the spread of any actual viruses. You're not going to learn anything from this. Nevertheless, I notice people are downloading it. They're also watching Contagion. That's like the #1 movie on iTunes now. It came out 5 or 6 years ago because we want to learn.
It was a good movie.
It wasn't a great movie, but apparently the science was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was an enjoyable movie.
It was okay.
It's good to watch at home. It wasn't one to go out and see.
There's often a trade-off between good science and entertaining fiction. You know
the interesting thing is that
the less entertaining the fiction.
The science fiction and the scary part is always like it's zombie plague or it's Ebola. It's like the ones that are very visually dynamic. But real life is always like, no, we're the flu. We're fine.
Well, I think Contagion was a flu, humans. I think. Yeah, wasn't it? It was a...
I don't remember, but it wasn't China.
That's where I learned what R naught meant.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, also made the point that you will never know how this absolute horrific pandemic started because it's a complex interaction between human species and non-human species, and if we knew how to prevent it, we could prevent everything from happening. Yeah.
Well, and it was the whole don't touch your face, wash your hands.
By the way, I
all
noticed
those safety things were in there.
Exactly as I started telling that story, I started touching my face.
I touch my face.
I want somebody to make an iPhone app that honks at you when you maybe just put it.
No, it would be your Apple Watch, an Apple Watch app that uses the location of your wrist is.
Or just you put the camera on you.
I don't know. I just don't know if I can do it.
Can you not do it? I don't know why you say you couldn't do it, Alex.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I can. No, I know that's for real because
it's hard not to touch your face.
I was thinking about running some errands before the show, and but I definitely have to do something like after the show to like drop off something for FedEx, and I'm like, do I really want to have to wash my hands when I get back here before the show, and not to be able to touch my face for another hour, or do I want to just do all those errands at once and have to do all the hand washing and all the non face touching at once? It's a navigation, man.
Last week we had the story that Apple was going to that the Supreme Court rejected Apple's appeal, and Apple was going to have to pay a patent troll almost $500 million. Well, now Apple has to pay $500 million to somebody else. Man,
lots of other people.
If you have $201 billion, pretty soon everybody comes after you. Apple will be paying $500 million to end a lawsuit claiming it in. Oh, there's Tim. I'm not happy about this. Claiming.
I love when they take a picture that has nothing to do with they take a picture that exudes something that has nothing to do with the article. Like he wasn't there looking at watching this. This is some like other
This
picture.
is in Congress.
They do it all the time.
It's just silly.
Actually, this is Tim standing behind the president when he was announcing that he had just opened this factory in Texas.
Is he running for Congress? Is that what you're doing? The slow zoom?
Tim Cook doesn't want you to buy an iPhone. Tim Cook has got billions of dollars. What is he doing with it, Tim Cook?
He says that he
has an Adam's apple
of the users.
Tim, this is a class action lawsuit. Yes, so it'll be a lot of people he'll be paying, saying Apple claimed Apple capped performance on older iPhones. Oh, well, it did. We know that. There's not been a secret about that. It's really the intent that is in dispute. The lawsuit said because they wanted to force people to upgrade. Apple said it's because your crappy old battery is going to crash the phone if you try to do too much.
It would brown out. If it came with peak process demand, would cause a brownout.
I believe Apple did that intentionally. Nevertheless, the lawsuit is being settled. It was disclosed on Friday. $25 per iPhone and a minimum of $3 million, although it still needs to be approved by a judge.
Though the lawyers get $90 million, and if you're a named member of the class action, you get like couple thousand bucks or so.
And the rest of us get what? Am I going to get a check from Apple?
Welcome when you see all these class actions. Just remember that it's really just lawyers doing lawyery things.
Yeah,
$90 million.
This is nothing to do with you. It doesn't. It's not helping anything. No. It's 1.25 days of Apple revenue.
Yeah.
So the one thing I hope we get from this though is that Apple eventually did I think they did the right thing because I think it was better for people's iPhones not to shut down unintentionally, but they didn't do it in the right way. They didn't fully explain what was happening, and they did later. Once all this brouhaha came out, they gave people, a page that explained what their battery health was and the ability to opt out in between brownouts if they really wanted to. And that all of those things, if they had just done that up front, would have completely obviated any of these. Yeah.
And
first, the fake conspiracy theories.
They also super discounted the cost of battery replacements, which was great for everybody.
Yeah, $29. 11 million people last year, or 2018, I guess, took advantage of that. That's twice the normal, or 10 times the normal.
And the reality is that Apple does, people say Apple's trying to force you to buy a new iPhone, and Apple's actual plan is way more fiendish than that. They don't want you to just buy another iPhone. They want you to be so happy with your current iPhone that you won't even consider a Samsung or anything else when you go to buy. But then your old iPhone will still be good enough that you'll give it to like a family member or sell it or trade it in so Apple can resell it, thereby increasing the overall number of iPhones in the market. Because if you remember the earnings report, they don't even talk about how many they sold anymore. They talk about the absolute platform size now, and any iPhone that times out of being still useful anymore gets dropped from the platform size, which is not what they want. So they want those things to keep going in secondary and tertiary hands.
If you had an iPhone 6, 7, or an SE, you have to apply, and then you could get as much as $25, depending. It's the same thing. We saw this with
I believe that's 6S, though. I think they have that wrong. I think it's 6S
okay,
and SE.
Yeah, that's this is Business Insider, so they may have dropped something there. So you'll get a note. Yeah, you'll get something in the mail, and you could fill it out, or maybe you'll have to go to a form online.
I got one for Quebec. We had a similar lawsuit in Quebec, and I'm getting $3 or $5 in the mail or something.
You filled it out?
No, they just sent me the letter saying, "Hey, you're a resident of Quebec, and you're part of this class action. I'm sending you $5."
I wish they would just send us a coupon to the Apple Store.
I'd use that. Give me $10 in the Apple Store.
What can you buy for $5 at the Apple Store, Alex? Especially you.
Now Alex can't buy anything.
Discount on something that you were going to buy anyway.
It's a 125th of an Alex.
Yeah.
Here's 125th of an Alex.
I will find something.
Buy yourself something cute.
Have some mints.
Have some mints.
At an Apple store, it would probably be $10 for mints.
Yeah, exactly. The mints are probably like $6.95.
Yeah.
I'm a little disturbed by this, and we talked about it on iOS today, and Micah and I were kind of disheartened. This is a report by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Uyghurs for sale. I don't know who the Australian Strategic Policy Institute is, so I don't know the facts on this, but they say, and we know this, that the Muslim minority in China, the Uyghur minority, has been incarcerated by the millions in concentration camps. The report says that many of them are then sent to get re-educated and then brought to factories under conditions, quote, that strongly suggest forced labor. Factories that are in the supply chains of at least 83 well-known global brands, including Apple, BMW, Gap, Huawei, Nike, Samsung, Sony, and Volkswagen. They say 80,000 Uyghurs were transferred out of their homes in Xinjiang to work in factories between 2017 and 2019, some sent directly from detention camps. Obviously Tim Cook is going to make that face again when he sees this. I think Apple's done a lot to improve conditions for workers in their primary assembly plants, the Foxconn plants, and the Pegatron plants. But these are mostly going to factories that are suppliers to Apple, suppliers of the OLED screens or the camera modules and things like that. Your thoughts, Sandy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Apple is to blame. I don't think most of the companies that are being named are to blame. It's part of how complicated the supply chain is, and if you're going to have the hiring power and the commercial power of a company like Samsung, like Apple, like Huawei, like anybody, you have to take responsibility for the fact that sometimes your suppliers are going to do things that you don't approve of, and possibly if they have to do some more work. Part of that is going to have to be if we are negotiating for the best advantage we can possibly have in terms of bringing unit costs down, bringing things in on the timeline that we demand and not on what they think that they can actually provide. What are these contractors going to do in order to make sure that they can produce this component at the price we want and at the time frame that we want? Labor is such a complicated thing, and there's so many knock-on effects that we are not going to figure out for the next 10 or 20 years. It really is like climate change. It's like a social version of climate change. We don't know that we've fundamentally screwed up a thing that makes the global society work until we see all these weaknesses happen. And this is the first crack in that scenario. We are seeing slave labor again. We are. No doubt about it. It is slave labor being used to produce components that are going into an iPhone. And again, not with the knowledge and not with the consent of Apple. They're gonna probably be beating a few managers about this. But nonetheless, that's what happens when you drive costs as low as possible. The people who are going to get it right in the neck are usually the people who are doing the assembly, the people who are being paid an hourly wage. So.
ASPI reached out to the 83 brands, and by the way, all the big brands are in here, including many clothing and sneaker manufacturers, cars, all kinds of manufacturers, and asked about the suppliers. Some of the companies, for instance, Adidas, Bosch, and Panasonic, said, and I bet you Apple is in this boat too, we don't have any direct contractual relationships with those suppliers. Those suppliers make products that are then sent to other factories that we do have a relationship with.
Yeah.
And I think that's been part of the problem with the supply chain is, the batteries, a lot of these parts are made in questionable circumstances, but if you don't deal directly with those factories, then you don't have any leverage.
It's such a complicated.
Factories. It's very complicated.
I mean, the thing is it would be like, I just know that, I've worked with a bunch of these companies. I have to sign all kinds of, if I'm working for a large corporation, I have to sign all kinds of agreements.
Well, you do use forced labor. I know. That's why we hired a lot of those people.
No, but,
right, John?
But the the thing is when we're hiring freelancers, I have to do background checks on those folks, and there's all these stacks, but it's like at some point I don't know what they did. I don't know what the person that they bought stuff from that's being used in the this is not like someone directly giving something to the Apple.
It's kind of what happens, though. I do have to say this is what happens when you say, and I think you're right, Andy, price pressure maybe drove them to it. We're going to manufacture in China. If they were being manufactured in the U.S. with U.S.-made parts,
it would be done in prisons.
Maybe.
No,
who made your license plate, right?
Yeah. But of course you're not suggesting an equivalency there, but you are right that
I'm not suggesting equivalency, but I am suggesting they're in this.
They're in the accountability.
The work that we outsource to prisons in the United States is in the same room.
A lot of stuff.
Maybe not sitting in this right next to them, but it's in the same room.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff that's made in prisons. I know.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say though, Alex, kind of drifting off of what you were talking about, that the difficulty of kind of you can't know what every part is being made for your phone, for example, in this case. But I think that corporations do have the ability to put pressure on all the way down the supply chain especially after having the knowledge. So before they had the knowledge of some forced labor happening down the supply chain.
I think
once they learn that,
I think this report will, within a year, none of these guys are going to be using anything that's connected to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to go away.
If they can.
They will.
There's another big issue there in which this is the Chinese government that are rounding up Muslims, putting them into camps that they are claiming to be employment retraining camps, but are actually not only it's re-education camps, and not only are they being then moved and forced into this labor situation, but also they are treated like third or fourth class citizens within that labor community, where even then they're being monitored, they are being forbidden from practicing their religion, they're being suspected. This is not it really does raise once again that consistent drumbeat of what is going to be the cost of dealing with countries that treat their own people in deplorable ways, and there's never an easy answer to a lot of these things. Well, yeah, but again, we're not rounding up people, putting them who are of a certain religion, putting them in camps, and then forcing away from their families, stripping them of their identity.
I watch the Canadians. I watch what's happening with Canada and the natives, and with America and the borders, and I honestly don't know how far away we are from anything anymore. It's terribly inhuman what we're doing to each other.
So
and we don't seem to learn.
Scooter X sent me this link from the state of California. Since 1947, inmates at Folsom State Prison have manufactured California's license plates for the Department of Motor Vehicles. Originally, the factory was located in a surplus airplane hangar near the original granite quarry. So now we know what else the inmates are doing. In 1953, the entire operation was dismantled and reassembled in the new factory located in the upper yard. The first license plates were made of steel. Today, license plates are manufactured from aluminum with reflective sheeting. Over the years, license plates have undergone many changes. Blah, blah, blah.
And it's not just license plates.
No, it's a lot of stuff. Prisoners are doing all kinds of things.
And Andy's right. I don't want to conflate the two, but I feel like we would have a much better moral platform with which to express our outrage if we weren't being just so terrible in our own way.
Well, see, my big issue is more with the shift towards privately owned prisons, as opposed to it's one thing when you have federal and state-owned prisons, where a lot of the reasons why you have prisoners stamping out license plates is because it gives them something to do other than getting into severe forms of mischief. It basically gives them it's part of a rehabilitation training. It's when you have a private prison that is trying to be run for profit, when the corporation that owns that prison sees that the prisoners as a labor unit that then can be rented out, and then you have them lobbying for certain get tough on crime incentives to make sure that those private prisons get filled with people who can do that contracted work. That's when you start to be like, oh, for F's sake, come on. This is what country are we in? Do we have a right to judge anybody on anything? It's one thing if a government is saying that a group is ideologically unsound for inclusion into the regular workforce and to be trusted members of our society, but it's not as bad, but it's certainly in the same sort of category when you basically say that corporations are allowed to withdraw human beings from the general population to be able to provide cheap labor at pay. Anyway, I'm about to get on a tear, so I'm going to stop.
Yeah, I get you, Andy.
That's why I voted. That's why I voted today. That's all we get to do. 13.4 beta is out. 9 to 5 Mac digging through the code. Looks like they said they found evidence that Apple might be working on an internet recovery for iOS. Does this mean the end of the DFU?
The end, Leo, or just the DFU on the cloud?
DFU in the cloud.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record on this, but there was this huge rumor that Google was gonna make one of the Pixel phones with no ports, and they didn't end up doing it because they could not get remote execution 100% stable, and it has to be. And we've had quote unquote portless devices like the Apple Watch and the Apple TV don't have user accessible ports. You can break them open and dig around inside and get a USB port, but they're just not user accessible. And you have to take them to an Apple store and they open up the sealed port and they plug into it. But it would make everyone's lives much easier, whether we keep the port or not, if you didn't have to go, because like I don't think most of my family knows how to connect to iTunes or Finder now anymore. They're so used to living in the age of iCloud. It would make it so much easier that if any update went wrong, instead of bricking a device and having to go find a way to plug it in, you could just do an internet recovery. It would be one more step towards making these things really, truly PC free.
That's why when I did a Ask the Tech Guy on the DFU, I sent people to your video at imore.com because the timing is so critical.
Yeah.
You know, that you got to watch a video while you're pressing the button and doing the button. And it's a dance, which you want it to be because you don't want it to happen by accident.
Well, but see, my issue is that how many times have you had a problem with the device and you do a Google search for how do I solve this problem, and then you find a really beautifully produced support document on Apple or Google or whatever that explains here's how you do the reset, and then wait for it to blink 4 times. After it blinks 4 times, blink it again, it'll turn orange and go into recovery mode. But there's nothing in that document that says, okay, let's say hypothetically that I do all that and the light never does turn orange. Are you going to tell me exactly what to do then?
Yeah, then now what?
And there's no documentation for that. And I've said this time and time again because this really is a core belief for me. If you're going to take away a feature from a device, you have to give the consumer something in return. You can't just do it because your designers are offended that there's a hole in this thing. You can't do it because it's inconvenient to have to design around having this other mechanical structure inside the device. I would be okay with it. I'm more okay with it on the Apple Watch, where obviously you can't have a 30-pin port on this device. It's just crazy. I'm okay with it on the Apple TV because it really isn't a device where you do anything but simply plug it into a TV and watch television. And it's also costs but $200, $150 when I'm giving you $800 for a phone. I really want to make sure that anything that I want to do with the phone, I don't care about what the majority of people do. I want to make sure that what my possibilities aren't being limited by the fact that you made you made a selfish decision as a designer and decided that, well, people don't use ports anyway, we're going to just simply delete it. I'll be with you, and I won't even notice it's gone until that first time where I'm totally, totally screwed, but I would have had an out if I had an actual place I could plug in a cable on this device.
Which I think is exactly where this OS recovery is. It's sort of like the first step into that world. And I don't think it's a good idea for Apple to make a portless phone. I'm on your side with that, Andy, but I think this evidence in the beta that there may be some kind of cloud-based recovery. This, to me, is an example of Apple testing the waters as to whether or not this is something they could implement, because I don't think that they will get rid of the ports until they're sure that they can allow people at home to access recovery for their phone or DFU for their phone through the cloud, and it's seamless and smooth and it works really well, because that is so important to us, before making those steps.
No, I agree completely. The other issue is always going to be, just glossing over the fact that there are a lot of people that don't have easy access to an Apple store, either because there just simply isn't one nearby, or because they don't have a car they can get into and drive to a mall. But the other thing is that wireless. I think this is a line that I keep stealing from Rene, and I usually credit him. But because it coalesced a lot of things I already knew, but failed to put into a simple phrase, that wireless charging does not come for free. That you're going to have to deal with the fact that it causes heat, it causes stress on the battery. It's not typically as fast. It's not as easy to take. Last night I charged my phone, and once again, I've had this phone for years, but I was shocked to find out that I was at like zero, at like you're about to go south. This phone is about to go home to Jesus temporarily until if you don't plug it in soon. And then looked at it again 15 minutes later, and it was up to 60%. And like, my God, I love fast charging, and I don't want to trade away the ability to fast charge it. By the time the tea that I ordered at Starbucks has gotten even slightly warm, my phone is at 100% and I can go on with my life. Again, give me a reason why you removed that port. And it can't be we didn't like the slot in there. We didn't like the fact that we couldn't put this component here because we have to put in a Lightning port or USB-C port. That's just my philosophy.
My hope is
like
one of the things is, sorry, Lori.
Go ahead.
I was going to say my feeling is that mechanical things are still failure points, and hardware companies hate that.
Yeah.
But if they can just mitigate it a little bit, so for example, like water resistance is fine, but if you plug immediately in after it's wet, you should never do that. That causes shorts or it causes corrosion. And also people, again, I don't think anyone in my family knows how to plug into iTunes, and that becomes a whole stress thing. And they've got to find iMore, and thank goodness, Lori does such a great job with all that stuff. They can find it and they can do it. But if they don't have to, if like the port is an option for them, even if it reduces usage by 50%, wear and tear by 50%, that's a huge savings. It means those ports will last longer, the phones will last longer, there'll be less errors. They can fast charge if they want to, but they have wireless if they need it. That's my favorite so far, is because they didn't take away anything. They just gave us the convenience of wireless charging. So like, one day I'm assuming everything will be gone, even the phone. It'll just be all virtual whatever in our brains. But until then, like, just let us keep those things for as long as possible so that we get the convenience and can work our way off of the speed.
There's also something to consider.
Go ahead, Larry.
The fact that some people don't have computers in their house anymore. I've said this before. My mom is an example of this. She doesn't own a computer. She has an iPhone and an iPad, but she can't go into recovery mode if she needs to do something to either of her devices. She has to take it into an Apple store. So this is also, helping people who have kind of transitioned out of computers entirely. And the better our mobile devices are, the more people aren't going to have full computers in their home.
Excellent point. You can do it with the Mac now. That was one of the best things they ever did with the Mac. You can install the operating system from the internet.
You can zap the PRAM.
Yeah, and you can also zap the PRAM.
That's where the frog absolutely has to leap out of the boiling water. I will still say that I think that a phone with a headphone jack is better than one without one, but I accept that, especially 3 years later, no one has died because of this, as far as I know. But
less people have died because they're no longer being strangled in their sleep because they fell asleep and then they twisted.
Or how about the people who are trying to do emergency CPR, but like they're on the phone to 911, but then they get disconnected because of Bluetooth. But if they had
there's also a legitimate problem that we all have to use now battery-powered AirPods or headphones that then end up in the landfill because you can't replace the battery in the AirPods. I don't know if that's a net gain.
Yeah,
my headphones work forever.
Yeah, I have a lot of difficulty with
eventually.
That. Yeah, I have a lot of difficulty with the fact that these are, and this is not isolated to Apple. They're $250, $275 really wireless earbuds everywhere. I have a big problem with personally spending $250, $275 on a device that has an absolute death date on it. Until somebody figures out how to swap out these batteries, and given how precisely these things are put together, as well as how esoteric these batteries are going to be, that's not going to be the case.
You got to be creative and think about.
There are people who can afford it. That's fine, but for me, that is such a hard no that I can't imagine that's not a big deal for everybody else.
Yeah. We just have to figure out how to create artwork with it. I had a monitor. I had a monitor that wasn't working, so I gave it to my son. He turned it into a lamp.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
It's
like he came back and gave it to my wife for her birthday. It was like he gave her a lamp. I was like, where did he get the lamp? And he's like, I made it from the monitor.
A little earlier today, I fired up my Eero app during iOS today, and lo and behold, your Eero now works with Apple HomeKit. That's actually a big deal. It used to be if you wanted to put your IoT devices, if you wanted to secure the network from them, because they often become a gateway for bad guys into your network, you had to use the Steve Gibson 3 routers system, which is impracticable to say the least, especially since now you can't reach your IoT devices, so you can't use them. This is a really good solution, isolating HomeKit IoT devices on your Eero network. I imagine Apple's going to extend this to other networks at some point, but this is something now available right now in your Eero.
Leo, I have to ask you a question about this, especially because you were talking with Micah about it, and he's also a HomeKit expert and a smart home expert. what about the fact that you're supposed to reset all of your smart devices?
That's kind of a pain.
Back into the HomeKit router. That's the only reason I haven't
we talked about
done
this
it yet.
last week, didn't we? Am I repeating the story? I am, because
Nope.
No?
This is new.
This is
new.
okay.
We were
Because
talking
somebody
about-
else
Hashtag
raised
Eero
this
responses.
We were
qualm is
talking-
that you have to
We were talking
Eero's
about it because it
responsible.
was rumored to move forward,
Okay.
and now it has.
You do have to. Do you have to reset it? Is that what Apple's saying? Reset the devices?
I think they're saying they recommend it, and I haven't tried it yet. Because I don't want to find out that I have to go reset every single one of my HomeKit or
Remove
my
and
smart home
reconfigure.
things.
Yeah. What it does is it makes a firewall basically around every device, and then opens just the ports that are necessary for that device to either communicate to the outside world. Although you can say if there's no reason for a device to connect to the outside world, you can't. Your local network only. But the firewall is great because it says this port only, this device only, and it prevents even I'm going to have to say it might be unnecessary because anything that's HomeKit has over-the-air updates and is probably pretty secure by itself. It's the weird off-brand Chinese cameras I'm more worried about, and they're not HomeKit. But still, this is exactly in my opinion, the right thing to do. And going forward, it'll just be when you get a new HomeKit device, you just add it to the network, right?
So if you put it off, like me, then you're
good.
golden.
Yeah, it does. It says you have three levels of security. Restrict to home, which means devices can interact only with HomeKit through your Apple devices, no access to the internet at all. The default option is automatic, which allows limited internet access to the HomeKit and connections recommended by its manufacturer. And then no restriction, it's just like it is already, which is bleh.
I think I would set my phasers to definitely be restrict to home. I don't want someone
make it as restrictive
logging
as possible,
in from external and,
Right.
and killing people. With
Some devices, though, need to get the time from a time server or things like that, so you can't necessarily do that. I think this is a good thing to do, and I just saw that it is available now. When Mike had mentioned it, I fired up my Eero app, and there it is. So if you've got an Eero, and I presume other HomeKit routers will do the same thing at some point.
the pressure's on now.
Right. Let's take a break, and then shall we come back to our picks of the week? All right, we'll do that. I just want to reiterate what we said earlier. The WWT panel is now open to all. So please don't come if you're sick. But
open to all without sniffles.
No sniffles allowed. But if you go to www.twit-live-podcast, then we will let you in and you can join our live broadcast. Alex Lindsay's on the panel. Mary Jo Foley's on the panel. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got an analyst from the Gartner Group talking about the future of tech in the cloud. And there it is. There's all the people. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's the meetup is tomorrow, Wednesday, March 4th, 7:30 p.m. at the Trainwreck at Westport. Trainwreck Saloon at Westport.
It's going to be a train wreck.
Are you going to be out in time tomorrow night?
Yep.
Okay, good. So come on over. And then the event is going to be a lot of, there we go, Trainwreck Saloon. And the event's going to be, I like the picture of me in a cowboy hat. We're going to have a lot of fun at that panel the following day, Thursday. So all the details, and you do need to RSVP if you want to know more. twit.tv/blog give you all the information. Our show today brought to you by IT Pro TV. You are obviously a discriminating Apple user if you listen to this podcast. Maybe you have some interest in IT. Maybe you already work in IT. IT Pro TV is the easy and fun way to get the IT skills you want to get your first job in IT, or to get a better job or a more responsibility in your job in an IT professional. As a busy working professional, it can be difficult to get those skills or make a career change. IT Pro TV makes learning IT and getting those IT certifications easy. You can learn quickly at your own pace when your time allows. IT Pro TV on your computer, on your mobile, on your Roku, your Apple TV. It's a great binge-worthy way to learn for IT professionals and people who want to be in the IT field. Content is current, relevant, up to date, and it's, I have to say, it's entertaining. It's fun. They're really good. We were out there a couple of years ago when they opened up their new high-def studios in Florida, in Gainesville, Florida. 6 of them. That means they are putting out the videos. You're going to get the latest exam objectives for all of the different certs, including, by the way, they are the official training partner, video training partner for CompTIA. So they have 4,000 hours of IT training, but 12 CompTIA on-demand courses. So if you're studying for the A+, Network Plus, or Security Plus certs, 3 of the most important certs, they've got all the material. It's official. What else? They have a certified ethical hacker. I love that one. The Microsoft certs, Cisco, security skills, Linux, Mac OS, Windows, AWS, all sorts of stuff. Even courses in business and some stuff that you'll need to know, as everybody does when you get that new job. They always are up to date. They're always doing new stuff. You're going to love it. Don and Tim did a beautiful job creating IT Pro TV, and it has grown like crazy. I got a special deal for you, too. They have 2 plans. They have the basic plan, which gives you all the videos on demand anytime you want, 4,000 hours worth. They also have a premium plan, which includes practice exams and Windows servers and clients that you can configure, mess up, and have fun with. Go to itpro.tv/MacBreak. The offer code is MacBreak30, and you'll get 30% off. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Use the offer code MacBreak30, 30% off for the lifetime of your account, as long as you stay active. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Don't forget the offer code MacBreak30. We always end with Alex Lindsay because his is the most expensive, but this time
It's not very expensive.
It's not very expensive.
It's potentially expensive.
Oh crap!
It's not expensive up front.
What is it, Alex Lindsay?
So it's an interesting app. It's more of something I think we're going to see more of. I don't know if it's all there yet, but it's worth checking out. It's called Network or The Network. And what these guys do is they have live streams and they drop new products. And they do these little videos.
Are you
of
doing
the
work for them?
What? I'm not doing work for them.
Okay.
But it's more of an interesting
weird stuff.
It's weird stuff. And again, what?
So is it the person who's making this device?
No. This is This is you can buy stuff. It's literally e-commerce.
But what's
with
the live stream?
It's not. It's hard to see on the web.
So it's like a home shopping network with.
We're going to see more of
geeks?
this. This is more of it's less of a you should go look at it. I mean, you should go use it. It's more of a you should go look at it. There's 60,000 live streams being done to sell products in China. Not here, not on network. But the point is that this is this is a glimpse of the future of I think that there is of where we're going to see more.
You've
live
always
streams
been saying
doing
this, that
e-commerce.
brands should do their own podcasts, their own streams, their own videos.
And what they do is they merge
instead of buying
commerce.
ads on our fine network.
No, they should still buy ads on your network to talk about their launch products. Or they should pay you to do the launch product. But
so
the point is
tomorrow there's going to be a G-Shock 25th anniversary.
So they'll show
launch
that
stream at 5 p.m. That's cool.
That you can watch on your phone, and then you can. But the purchasing is right in the phone. So
of course it is.
It's more for people
who like to spend money.
Well, no, people like me who do production. You just want to pay attention to this market because I think this market's going to be
the next big thing.
A really interesting market that's going to pick up speed. So this is less of a recommendation of you should go use this all the time and go buy stuff because it could get expensive. It's more of a just worth researching this market because I think it's going to keep growing.
The youngs, you think the youngs, the kids, the Utes, that's who this is for?
I think so.
Feels like it is, doesn't it? Like it's. Are you a Ute? John's
Again,
going,
I don't know. I don't know necessarily this is the answer.
We don't pay you well enough to visit.
This is the first one
site,
I've
John.
seen. This is the first one that I've seen with purchasing like really well put.
I really want this. What is this?
Yeah, exactly.
What is this?
Freaky.
It's like a skeleton.
You'll get to know
in a
on
happy
March
face.
6th.
Ron English Collectibles.
So
birthday present for Leo right there.
Birthday present.
Yeah, there you go. So, but I think that again, I'm just interested in it from a perspective of
it's clearly aimed at younger people, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. It might be the future. Young people have no taste.
Again, don't look
Watch
at
out.
don't look at the stuff that's there. Think about that all
Right.
the other
Could be
products.
anything.
This could be talk
I just-
video.
everyone's
products.
young
It could
to
be-
us,
People
Leo.
don't like ads to begin with. Why would they watch a stream that's all ad?
Well, but it might be.
We watch the Apple streams, don't we?
We watch
Like
the Apple
good
streams because we're
ads.
interested in those products.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
if Blackmagic is releasing a new camera, people would love to have a live stream where someone's like, "Let's show you the camera. Let's
Yeah,
show you
no,
the
you're
inputs.
right.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
and have experts talking about it." Now, that's not what this is doing necessarily right now, but I think that when people launch new
No, I
products,
agree with you.
there's a lot of people who are interested in that product. And right now, I was configuring a ClearCom device. And it was like there's no documentation for the best parts of it.
No, but it's true.
and I was like,
people under 30 go to YouTube immediately. If they have a question, they don't read a manual. They
Me too,
search.
yeah.
They search.
I go to YouTube immediately.
Everybody does.
Like I go to
Yeah.
YouTube and then it's like if it's not there, I'm like, oh man, what's
So here's Jonah Hill plus Adidas.
there you
Joni's
go.
going to do a stream and show off his sneaks. I'm sorry. What do they call them? They don't call them sneaks.
I'm just trying to keep
Kicks.
I'm just trying to keep you up with the kids. That's all I'm saying. Just
May the 4th, a very special stream on May the 4th.
there you go.
I still can't see that bloody handprint on the stormtrooper helmet and not think Wilson from Castaway. I thought that was that was a bad choice in the first movie.
Or was it on purpose?
Ooh.
Trying to lure Tom Hanks into the franchise? That would be wise.
Are they locking someone in or locking us out?
You just blew my mind, Rene.
Lori Gill,
G-Shock, that was right.
your pick of the week. What am I buying this week?
Actually,
bought
you're
that
not buying
blanket.
anything
No?
except for maybe some food.
Oh, all right.
So
I love food.
I just I know there's going to be a lot of people who said this has been around forever. You're so behind the times, but I just discovered.
Lori, it's been
binging
around
with
forever.
Babish.
You're behind the
Yeah.
times.
I know, but I just discovered it. So binging with Babish.
Who's Babish?
I'm so new to this that I'm not sure what his history is in the culinary world.
Oh,
but,
you know what? I recognize those tattoos. My
So you do.
My son watches this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a really just nicely put together YouTube channel, and it has recipes for things,
foods.
but
Yeah.
for foods. But what is so cool to me is that he uses foods that are referenced or eaten in other in movies.
Here's like
So
the egg
one
sandwich from Birds of Prey.
Right, and the one that caught my eye was Ramdan from Parasite. which
I wanted to
I didn't
make
know
this.
what that was.
I'm watching the movie. She's saying, "Get some steak, make me Ramdan," and I'm
Yeah.
going, "What is that? I want it." So here's how you make it.
And not only does he make it in this particular episode, he makes it with the store-bought prepackaged stuff. He also makes his own version from scratch with better ingredients.
Yeah,
to
see, I don't want to
compare
use
the differences
I
between
don't want
the
to
two.
use instant ramen. I want to make the real deal.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's really cool, and I've only just started getting into watching his stuff, but I've just been really impressed with delicious food making techniques. And I don't cook at home or anything. I just like to watch videos of people cooking food.
Karsten, how come he can play Parasite on his YouTube channel and I can't even play his YouTube channel playing Parasite? What's the deal, man?
He paid the money.
You think he paid Parasite?
I don't know.
No. 4 million views in 1 month, less than a month, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's a big channel.
On Binging with Babish, Ramdan from Parasite. 4 million views. Lots of people making Ramadan, Manam. I'm not making anything with an ingredient called chapagetti.
That's what you think.
Good. This is a good pick. I'm going to try this. This looks good.
I don't know
Yeah,
why he doesn't get
really
the apron
great.
sponsored. It's a killer sponsor spot right there.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, I'm
Because
sure
no one's
that-
paid yet, but he's working on it. I'm sure.
I'm sure he's working. There's a Big Mac. I don't know what a Big Mac's
McDonald's
doing.
could pay for it.
I don't know
So
why.
he's
I'm loving
explained.
it.
This is,
He's putting
have you
truffles on a
seen
Big
the movie
Mac.
Parasite? By
Yes.
the way,
Ooh,
Yes.
black truffles,
So-
just like in Bob's Burgers. Sorry.
he's
I was distracted.
explaining the juxtaposition of cheap food with really
Yeah.
fancy ingredients on top of it.
He just put $150 worth of truffles on a $3 Big Mac.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's delicious.
I think.
And he ruined the Big Mac.
He ruined the Big Mac. All right, cool. Babish, do you ever see his face or you just see his tats?
You do. Usually what happens at the very end of the episode, he leans down and takes a bite of the food, and then you kind of see him leaning down and eating. So you do get to see his face, but almost always it's from the chest down.
This is Henry's hero. This is who Henry, my son, wants to be.
And like on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you save a few of the ramen noodles crunchy and you put them on the top afterwards.
Oh, really?
A little special treat.
Is that a special thing?
No, that's a joke from Brooklyn Nine-Nine when the character got sent to prison and he made his fame in prison by recommending that they keep some dried ramen noodles to crush on top. And at first they were angry that an interloper would dare tell them how to eat their ramen, but then they tried it and it was delicious and he got his prison credit.
So good. Of course, it's lunchtime, but I'm just saying this looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And this is the one with the prepackaged stuff. So if you go to toward the end and you see him, he makes the noodles from scratch. He makes the broth
But this
from scratch.
This is ready in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. It looks exactly like the one in Parasite, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Rene Ritchie,
Okay.
your pick of the week.
So first I'll say if you like him, there's also a channel called Pick Up Limes with an M. That's a Canadian vegan nutritionist living in the Netherlands who does very similar but very healthy, trendy sort of good food. So you can check that out too. But my pick is an app called Tot from a little company called the Icon Factory.
I was wondering if anybody would pick this.
Maybe you've heard of Craig Hockenberry and Ged Mayhew. I don't know. You know, they've been around a little while.
Or some
They're
guy
eager,
named
they're young.
Some kid named Gruber.
Yeah, well, he tested it, but it's really interesting. It's not a full-on notes app, and it's not meant to be. It's not a clipboard, a multi-level clipboard manager. It's something that just lets you record 7 bits of random text that you want to record. It's a single-screen interface. You've got different colors to identify the different tabs. You swipe between them, and you just put down any text that you want to save. Something that's not important to you enough to be a note that you want to keep, virtually forever, but something that you don't want to forget about either. It's like a little scratch pad. And the business model is so interesting. The Mac app is absolutely free. You can download it and you can run it on your Mac for free. But if you want the companion iOS app, which runs on iPhone and iPad, it's $20.
What?
Which is a lot for an iOS app.
That's $5 a note.
It totally is. But again, like the Mac app, which is what they really wanted to make, is free, and they weren't, the iOS app was going to take them a lot more to support it, and it wasn't really their first in-line use case. But they said if anybody actually wants it, it's available. It's $20, no subscription, no upsell, no anything else, just a one-time $20 fee, and you can have your notes lickety-split synced everywhere.
So
it's beautifully designed, as you'd expect.
Let's see how the people react to that when they complain so hard that they don't want to pay for subscriptions. Well, here you go. Are you going to buy this $20 app?
Yeah.
I got a prediction. No.
Yeah.
You know what I would suggest? This would be a good programming exercise. You could write this in a weekend. You'd learn a little bit. You'd have it just the way you wanted. It seems like a trivial app.
The concept is trivial, like everything is the execution. Like it's Hockenberry and Mayhew and the Icon Factory's ability to make it not just a thing, but like a beautiful thing that you're paying for.
Yeah, it's pretty. Very pretty. I was curious. I meant to talk about this because I thought this is the strangest thing ever. Because what is it? It's literally 4 different notes. That's it.
I think it's 7 tabs.
7? Okay.
Yeah,
but there's a limit. Yeah, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see it. So it's 7 notes. Like you already have Apple Notes, which is unlimited. You already could use Google Keep for free, which is unlimited.
These don't just grow. Like you don't write something down and then never look at it again, and now you have 3,000 things in notes.
Yeah, see, this is the benefit of it.
If you want to add a new one,
it
you've got to
does so
sacrifice
little.
a previous one. Yeah. Well, no, it's like if you want to add something new, you've got to sacrifice something old, so you never have more than 7 pages.
Okay. $20.
I always said I would pay Cultured Code so much more for an app called Thing that only let me have one thing to manage at a time.
Thing.
Or like if OmniFocus would use machine learning to subtly drop out the things it knows I'm never going to do. Like just save me the mental hassle of admitting defeat every day. And just like Rene never does this, we're going to drop it. He'll feel better about himself.
It has to use machine learning to look at what you constantly say you're going to do and never do, and then just quietly have it disappear. But it can't disappear like it can't do a flash. It just takes it out. Like you put it in there. So by the next day, it's just gone.
So Alex, I think
that I would buy.
Alex, you've accidentally created a brilliant idea for a productivity app where all of your projects are like Tamagotchi, that they need if you don't pay attention to them, they die. And you can't. No, better than that.
Call them footprints in the sand.
What happens is that if you don't tend to them, if you ignore them for a while, they don't die. What the app does is it encrypts it with an encryption key that you can't access until you donate $50 to a charity that you've already designated.
I just think they disappear, and then if you don't really look for them for a while, then they die. Then they just.
So are you going to buy this?
This? No, yeah. I use Apple Notes.
Yeah.
Like my whole life is wrapped.
I'm really curious how this will do.
I don't.
This could be the beginning of a whole range of intentionally Spartan apps.
This is exactly the sort of app that I love to support, where it is definitely not going to become a meme in culture anywhere. It is a weird idea that a few people got so captivated by that they had to build it into reality rather than just let it go back to the land of ghosts and winds. And it's the sort of app where most people are going to be like, huh? But there are going to be a few people that, oh my God, this changed my life. Well, I'm naming not a baby, but certainly my first kitten after your product.
I definitely respect constrained resources. I think that part of what I love about Twitter is that it's an art form. Like it is
that's true. That's why the sonnet is a great poetic form.
If you watch my tweets, most of them are almost like there's like
79 characters.
Yeah, they're always like because I write them and they're about 300.
Yeah,
and then I cut things out and I move things around and I restate things and I get rid of my passive verbs and I do all the things that you need to do to get down, and I like that. I like that process. So I get the constraints, but I just do so many notes. Like I do so many notes per day.
So I've been using,
and I love the fact that I can go back and look at it.
I wasn't going to make this a pick, but I've been using something called Notion. Are you familiar with Notion?
Yeah.
Notion.so. I love Notion. So this is the exact opposite of Tot. This is kind of an endless notebook for anything that you want. What's cool about it is that any note can be shared. It can become a web page, a public web page or a private web page. That there's graphics, there's images, it uses Markdown. I think it's beautiful, but it's completely freeform. In fact, it's a little challenging because at first you open it up and I don't know, what does it do? I don't understand.
I felt like it was more like a development platform for personal productivity, meaning that once you after 4 or 5 or 6 months of developing this thing for your job or your needs, you'd get something that is absolutely custom tailored, but out of the box, it's going to be a bit of a slog. But when you see, but I agree, once you see what other people have done with it, you're like, I want to make that slug. I want to Andy Ihnatko focused productivity app.
I have, I've been started using this a few weeks ago, and it's become my absolute number one. I just keep it running. It has an app for iOS, Android, Mac, Windows. It's a web interface. Continue to show it, would you, John? It's got a web interface. This is my Mac OS setup. So what's nice about this, when I get a new machine, I can immediately open this in the web because I know that I've memorized the password, and I can set up the new machine with all of the commands and everything that I need. I have to say, this is incredibly useful. It could be, when I went car shopping, I put all the things that I needed in a car, and then once this is so easy to do. I don't know. I'm really a fan. Now it's free for 1,000 blocks. Here I've put together my COVID-19 pages with instructions on how to wash your hands. Prep for the coronavirus. You could put web pages in here. You could put tweets. You could put maps. I feel like this is the exact opposite of Tot, and I think it's actually insanely useful. So there, we got 2 picks. One for the minimalist, one for the maximalist. Notion.so.
Can I just jump in?
Yes.
And so I just installed Tot on my Mac just now, and I immediately know that I'm going to be using it a lot. It puts a menu bar icon for you, which I love. And I just need to sometimes just I got to remember to call somebody later. I'll pop that in there. And, maybe it's also something that I want to kind of plan out what I'm going to do for work for the next week, but I don't need to open notes for it. I just need to do something really quickly. So, it's going to be useful for me for sure. Just if for no other reason than it's got a menu bar icon that lets me just jump in and look at it really quickly. So
it's like sticky notes as opposed to a notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I like wikis, and this is more like a wiki where you could just keep on going and putting
it's not Adobe FrameMaker, it's Pages, Leo. Like there's room in between both.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to each
one's
his
for
own.
documenting battleships, the other's for making your school newsletter.
Maximalist versus minimalist. That's the idea here. So
yeah.
Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
My pick is something that I've been looking for about 5 years, and specifically thinking hard about for the past 4 months before pulling the trigger, because it was kind of spendy for me. But it is the Filson medium field bag. I've been looking for years, for years to get a buy it for life type of like everyday carry sort of bag, something that was better than the nylon bags that I usually get that I wear out after 2 or 3 years, but wouldn't be so, but this is made out of 100% oxblood leather and just not being practical. It really took me a long time to find one that had all the earmarks that I liked, meaning built really, really well, also really, really classy, has a lifetime warranty, also lifetime repair for things that fall outside of the warranty, but also fit everything that I need or I want this sort of everyday carry bag to be. And I'm talking about the carry-on bag that you stick under your seat, not the rollaway you put over the seat. Yeah,
this is really nice.
It's $350, so it's a little bit spendy, but it's a very, very thick twill, like a canvas. It's reinforced at the bottom. Really nice leather for all the fittings, all the fixtures. Really, really nice like leather strap. All the fixtures are real brass. They're not some sort of like weird cheap pot metal or something like that. But what I really like about it is that it also has it needed to have a carrying handle at the top, so that if you're just like grabbing something from the concierge at the hotel, or you need something just to fix it to the top of your rollaway. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily the best bag for everybody. This is just the best, but this had all the features that I liked out of every previous bag that I've been using for the past 5 or 6 years. I'll just walk you through a few of them. Like I like the kind of thing that has what's called a weather flap on the top for a couple of reasons. One of which being that oftentimes, but not always, the straps that hold it down will have like a little bit of like a bulge here, so if you have an umbrella or a tripod, you can stick it up there. The other nice thing about having the storm flap is that if you're kind of in a casual situation, you can just leave the flap open, like undid, and keep growing into it. And like spring is coming, and so you dress in layers. So I'll have like my jacket, and the jacket you can just you don't have to even stuff it inside the bag. You can just lay it across this, put the flap over it, and then carry it around that way. It has to have a magazine flap at the back for first order retrievability, usually of things like my iPad or things that I'm reading. I really like to have these little pockets on the edges, like one for my water bottle. Usually the other one has my super high capacity recharging battery. Another thing is kind of controversial. For a number of people I know, I don't like bags that have lots and lots of dividers and little pockets inside them, because invariably yeah, exactly. I just don't have stuff that fits into those pockets specifically. So what I prefer to do is just like sort my own gear into little bundles like this. It's big enough to hold really any 13-inch and maybe 14-inch laptops. This is my 13-inch MacBook that I usually keep in this kind of a sleeve. One thing that's kind of a warning sign for certain people, I like this, I should say. It's actually has like sort of a seam that makes the top of it narrower. So if you have a larger laptop, you might have to sort of put one in first and then the other end, as opposed to sliding it all the way down. I like that because when you have the flap in, it protects the contents from the rain and also protects it from fingers just being able to jump in for people behind you on the subway and grab things. But again, a lot of people are going to want organization. That's fine. It only has, as far as pockets go, it only has 2, but they are big pockets. And if you want to know how big they are, it is actually big enough to carry not only
what does he have in his pockets?
Not only my Sony Discman, but the same pocket also has
a visitor from 1998.
It's going to be a Zune.
Also has 4 CDs.
CDs.
So that's how. See, they're not chintzy little pockets.
If you pull vinyl out of there and not, we're going to have words.
You could fit an LP in here. Now, so like I said, it's not cheap. It's $350, available in 2 colors. You can get a smaller version of this if you're just using it with an iPad, and that costs a little bit less. If you sign up for the newsletter, you can get 10% off immediately, and that's what I engage with. Their policy is, once again, if anything ever goes wrong with it because of defect, like if they didn't close a stitch properly and something pops off, send it to them. They'll fix it for free. If just wear and tear happens, they will charge you for it, but they've been around for about 100 years, and I like the idea of 15 years from now having like patches on this thing. And I've seen videos of people who've had them for 10 years showing it off after 10 years. They look very nice, beaten in, and positive. I will give one little warning though, and I had to navigate this too. Now, $350. I tried to say that I'm frugal rather than cheap. So this is why it took me 4 months after discovering this to really decide if this is absolutely going to be the thing that was going to work for me, despite the fact that there is a 30-day return policy. So you can, as long as it's in resaleable condition, you can buy it, check it out with your own stuff in your office, and then send it back if you don't like it. But now there is a weird and suspicious thing. Filson, if you live in Seattle, they have a Filson factory store where you can buy seconds really cheap. That's fine. But if you look online, if you go to eBay, you will find lots of sellers that have this same bag for $250. And it's not as though, and they're brand new with tags, they say, and they say that, it's not like a limited number where they only have 2. No, they seem to have as much as you can possibly get. And I, for the life of me, could not figure out any answer to how are they able to get an unlimited supply of these bags for these very, very famous bags for $100 off retail, unless they were absolutely counterfeit. And so and I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of counterfeit bags out there, because I've seen like online reviews that said, this so-called brass handle like broke off after about a month, or this stitching came undone like almost immediately. And also, most suspiciously, this is why I was so cautious, that I can't get my 13-inch MacBook Pro in here. And it's like, wait a minute, I didn't actually buy it until I went to the Boston store locally.
You can get a Mac Pro in there? MacBook Pro?
My 15-inch MacBook Pro inside this close-fitting slipcase works fine.
That's bigger than I thought it was. That's nice.
Yes. So, and again, if this were packed to the absolute gills, I think I would have problems getting it out, because once again, there is sort of like a lip that kind of would have to make it shimmy out. But so I would say make sure you're buying it directly from Filson, because that was the big warning sign when I was concerned that, if it doesn't fit my MacBook Pro, I don't always leave the house with the MacBook. It really is more about the iPad, but that would be kind of a deal breaker. So that's why I actually made a trip. I filled my backpack with all the stuff that I would even potentially carry in an everyday carry bag, and actually took to the store for a test fitting, and it all fit just great. So I think that there are knockoffs that are a little bit too small. One last feature that I really like, and again, these are things that I have to abuse these things for a while before I realize this is what I like. The bottom of the bag is wider than the top, which means that when you are in that mode of I need to check out of this hotel, I need to get out of here, I need to get right to the airport, and you're just stuffing things in your bag. The death of me is when I'm using a conventional bag where it's the same width from bottom to top. So I'll get nice and stuff, but then I can't close the top because I've overstuffed it. The thing is, when all the stuff is at the bottom and the narrow part is at the top, you'll almost always be able to flip it over and actually seal it up. Anyway, so I've had this for about a week now. I've taken it out on a couple of different excursions. Really, really, really like it. It has the hallmark of for any like major purchase that I will definitely be worried, oh my God, am I really going to spend $300 on a bag? And then, like, the first time I actually use it, I completely forget about how much I spent on it, because it's right. It's the right size, the right functions, the right features, and I think it looks damn nice. And I'm of the age where I'm going to enjoy having like the same bag, my Ford Prefect bag that I've been fantasizing about since I was 12 or 13 years old. If I were going to be a stringer for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, this is probably the bag that I'd have with me all the time.
Oh, you shouldn't.
This has not been a sponsored endorsement.
I have a bag Jones. As many people know. Oh, Andy.
You should if you like that, check out.
I've never heard of
the
Filson before. I've been looking at all their stuff, man. This is gorgeous.
Since 1897, yeah, and they have backpacks. They have they have briefcases. Now, I didn't like that. So, some people are like, oh, I want something that has a zipper top that I could secure. Well, they do have briefcases and other bags that have zipper tops to them. I want something big enough that I could actually not only have my laptop in it, but also have a couple days worth of stuff for a trip. They have also a small double. They have lots and lots of different stuff that's of that same thing. They have only 3 or 4 stores nationwide. There's a flagship store in New York. For instance, there's one in Boston.
What's tin cloth?
I believe it's like fine Corinthian leather. That's a name that they came up with. I've seen
tin cloth briefcases.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See the thing is it's definitely stronger than nylon, because the fault of every bag that I've loved that I've bought for like $50 or $60 has always been, after a couple of years there will be something wearing through. There'll be a hole somewhere, usually on the bottom of it, and so hopefully I've experienced with bags made of this kind of material that I've seen in vintage shops that are just like 50, 60 years old. This kind of heavy canvas tends to stand up, and once again, even if I do wear a hole in it, they will send it back with a very, very studly looking patch on it.
I see what it is. It's a tightly woven canvas duck, saturated with a liquefied paraffin wax and oil mixture under high heat and high pressure to protect against thorns and briars.
Yes, I'm not going to be dragging my laptop bag through a lot of thorns and briars, but still, it's good to know, isn't it?
Yes. Holy moly. Oh, man, I'm going to just put this aside, and tonight, when I have free time, I'm going to put on my jammies, put a fire in the fireplace.
I'm trying to look away because I
get a glass of brandy and browse.
You'll notice me being very quiet. I'm just trying to not look.
Oh,
I have
don't
a whole
look,
wall
man.
Of bags.
Oh my God!
I have a whole wall backpacks.
Me too.
Messenger bags.
And I've yet to find exactly
have like closets,
the
and they
bag.
spin around and they present you with your bag of the day.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
giant.
The problem is that I have a lot of pockets, and so going from one bag to another is surgery. Like there's like a lot of
so I don't. It's like a purse for a woman. You don't want to.
It's a merce.
It's a merce. This is my bag right now, but it's not capacious enough to satisfy my needs.
Yeah. But this is why I put things into like little sub bags, so that when I do switch from my backpack to this, I can just grab here are all my cables and all my chargers for everything that I'm likely to put in this bag, out for one, into the other.
Andy has bags for his bags.
Have you
Andy?
Can I ask? Have you ever held any other Filson bags?
I have looked upon many Filson bags in the store with lust. I've had to
you
remind
finally
myself
gave into that lust.
You know what? And it was a beautiful, lovely thing. My only shame was self-shame. Yep.
Alex, I picture Alex having the briefcase from Iron Man 2, where he just puts it down and the go to live stream armor comes on.
The problem is the hinges. The hinges get stuck.
I am live.
You set it down. It comes open part way, and then it doesn't come all the way, and then you're in front of the client. You're like, I worked in the lab.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the thrilling, gripping edition of This Week in Macintosh. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Well, it felt like a week. It really was only a couple of hours. Alex Lindsay is now at 090.media, his new company, and we're thrilled to see you've got gainful employ. You can follow him on the Twitter at Alex Lindsay, Lindsay. Anything you want to tell people?
I'm going to be in St. Louis tomorrow.
Hey!
Yeah, there you
at
go.
the beautiful Trainwreck Saloon.
Trainwreck Salon, and hopefully I'll see you all there. But I don't have anything else to talk about other than
shall be fun.
Twitter, because I say horrible things on Twitter. I don't say horrible things on Twitter, but I say lots of things on
Alex,
Twitter.
meet me in St. Louis.
Okay, sounds good.
See you there. Rene Ritchie, imore.com/Vector, the Vector podcast, a fabulous video show where you learn many things. What's coming up on Vector?
Today I have how Apple will take the iPhone to 5G. And then tomorrow I have all about the iPhone slow battery gate and how that happened and what we can learn from it.
Battery gate. Thank you, Rene. His colleague, Lori Gill, managing editor at the iMore, Appaholic. Anything you want to share as you're working on? Or?
I want to share how great Rene's Vector videos are and how you should definitely watch them because they're super good and super informative.
So true. So true.
Thank you.
And, of course, Mr. Andrew Ichanatko from ihnatko.com, IHNATKO, and he will be on the WGBH, Boston Public Radio, when?
Looks like Friday at 11:30, although as usual I will tweet out when I'm going to be showing up.
They have a small workshop weatherproof leather chain wallet.
Yep. You can get like dop bags.
Oh, God, no. They're perfect for my coins, my shiny dimes that I hand out.
Oh, yes. Here, young man, have a quarter.
Have a shiny dime. Your service is much appreciated. Our show comes to you every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. If you want to stop by, actually 1900 UTC, it'll be 1800 someday soon. Like, I think next Sunday, I think next week it'll change because we're doing summertime. It's so confusing.
Makes me so angry.
I have to redo all the math. If you want to watch live, you can. Live audio and video is provided at twit.tv/live. That's the website, twit.tv, where you'll find the show, twit.tv/MBW. But, you know, honestly, as fun as it is to download your own, why don't you just let it automate by getting your favorite podcast client to automatically download it every Tuesday the minute it's done? You just subscribe. Subscribe. It's good. We'll see you in St. Louis. Yes, good news. We have now opened up the panel so everybody can come. We're going to make a recording of it, but everybody can also attend. Apparently, there's some extra chairs.
Come say hi, unless you have sniffles.
At Worldwide Technology. It's okay. I don't care.
Okay.
Come on anyway. Yeah. The details are available at our website, twit.tv/blog. Also about our meetup tomorrow night at the Trainwreck. Thank you, everybody. Now it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.